Chapter 1491. Han Fei saw a dense blue light that seemed to cover half of the sky. When Han Fei heard the sound of time freeze, his heart skipped a beat. Han Fei quickly looked at the ring of time in his hand, only to see that the ring of time was glowing. Ha! The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly, and with a swish, he broke through the so-called time freeze space. Originally, Han Fei had a deep understanding of the great Taos of time and space. The acceleration and deceleration of time were very terrifying, and the great Tao of space was also impossible to guard against. King Chu was shocked. Han Fei could actually ignore his great Tao time. The other venerables were also surprised. How long had it been since the full-scale war on the Scattered Stars Island? It had only been less than a year, but Han Fei had not only become a venerable, but his strength didn't seem to be at all like someone who had just become a venerable. What's more, he could even block King Chu's great Tao time. If Han Fei was given a little more time, wouldn't it mean that no one in the entire Thousand-Star City could suppress him? Needless to say, Han Fei knew that the entrance to the lower world from the Thousand-Star City must have been blocked. At this time, he couldn't run to the entrance, so he could only stay in the Thousand-Star City. BM. Ordinary people had no idea that in the void above their heads, many venerables had stepped into the void. Their figures flickered in the void like light. Among them, the fastest were the three people. One was Old Monster Chu, the other was a peak-level venerable, and the other was Han Fei. Although the venerable of the Yi family was also fast. The strongest person of the Yi family was killed by Old Han when the Faceless Man attacked the Thousand-Star City last time. The strongest had died, and the latecomers hadn't grown up yet, so they were left far behind by these three people. Han Fei's heart did a flip. It seemed that it was the Chu sect who was really determined to deal with him. Without the support of the Chu sect, the other big clans didn't have the ability to attack him at all. In this case, Han Fei thought of two places in his heart. One was the Chu sect, and the other was the Chao family. He could go to these two places. If he went to the Chao family, they were more low-key, and he might not be able to display his skills. Also, although Chao Tianji went to the battle on the Scattered Stars Island, Chao Shuang also killed a sea demon venerable apart from Chao Tianji visiting Tang Yin. In other words, even though the Chao clan had made a move, it wasn't very effective. He had done both good and bad things, and his attitude was unclear. It was not good to offend him now. Han Fei immediately made up his mind. Want to kill me? Sure. If you have the ability, kill everyone in the Chu clan first. The Chu sect and the Chao family were two large clans with independent islands in the Thousand-Star City. Han Fei waved his hand, and a few fish skins bloomed. These formations naturally could not stop Old Monster Chu. However, Han Fei didn't need to stop him at all. When the fish skin was unfolded, the void was enshrouded in a mist that extended for dozens of kilometers. And Han Fei had already used the Gemini divine technique. However, as early as in the God's Memorial Tower, after Old Monster Chu was fooled by Han Fei, he knew that Han Fei could create doppelgangers. Therefore, this old fellow was also very crafty. He slapped the entire fog with one palm. Boom! Crack! Feeling that something had been crushed by him, King Chu was overjoyed. Puff! Just when King Chu felt that he had succeeded, Han Fei's figure quickly broke out of the fog. Vomiting a mouthful of blood, he flew all the way south. And Old Monster Chu waved his long sleeves, and the fog and the void disappeared. His perception swept through every grain of dust in the void. Even so, Old Monster Chu was still worried. Be careful, everyone. This kid can create doppelgangers. Be careful when exploring the void. After using the Gemini divine technique, the strength of Han Fei's white mist body dropped greatly. However, even so, it still caught up with the speed of an advanced venerable. At this time, someone was intercepting him on the road ahead. Han Fei roared, punched out the sacrificing punch with all his strength. Boom! Everyone who saw Han Fei's punch, including Old Monster Chu, was sure that this was Han Fei's real body. If it wasn't his real body, how could he exert such a powerful force? The venerable who intercepted Han Fei was only an intermediate venerable. He was blasted thousands of kilometers away by the sacrificing punch. In the sky above the thousand-star city, the sound of explosions rippled non-stop. Countless people raised their heads and looked at the sky, wanting to see what was going on. But how could ordinary people see the battle between venerables? It was this attack that had drawn old Monster Chu over. His hands missed, and he was about to catch Han Fei. At this moment, old Monster Chu's face suddenly changed drastically. Gate King. Old Monster Chu was horrified. Just now, he had clearly checked the fog thoroughly. It was impossible for someone to exist without being discovered by him. However, just now, a black fog appeared out of thin air. Although King Chu's speed was fast enough, a teleportation array had appeared in front of Han Fei's black mist body. Swish! At the moment when King Chu arrived, the teleportation array had collapsed. How could he find the black mist? At this moment, old Monster Chu grabbed Han Fei's white mist body. However, Han Fei smiled coldly. Old Monster Chu, let's play a big game today, how about it? As soon as he said this, Han Fei's body collapsed. At this moment, the Venerable's perception swept across the entire thousand-star city. However, there were hundreds of millions of people in the thousand-star city, and all kinds of things were happening all the time. How could they sweep them all with manpower? Waves of air fluctuated from old Monster Chu's body. Han Fei, if I do it again, you will never be able to escape. Old Monster Chu couldn't have guessed that he did slap Han Fei to death just now. However, he only slapped half of Han Fei to death. Just now, the black mist body died and the white mist body escaped. Now the white mist body was crushed and the black mist body escaped. At that moment, Han Fei had no time to enter Forge the Universe. Fortunately, the characteristics of Little Black and Little White were still there. If one side didn't die, the other wouldn't die. The white mist body was blasted into dust and naturally couldn't be found. And Han Fei also deeply realized that old Monster Chu's power was enough to crush an advanced venerable with a slap. This old guy almost slapped him to death just now. On Cold Moon Island, the Chu sect occupied this place. The nautical panorama stopped in front of an ordinary small house. No one saw that a black shadow, imperceptible to the naked eye, quietly entered the courtyard. Get lost. BM in the courtyard, there was a roar, and there was the sound of porcelain being knocked over. Immediately afterward, a woman's timid voice said, "Young master, the highly skilled doctor in the clan said that it is possible to restore my spiritual heritage by taking medicine every day." T. How many times has the highly skilled doctor in the clan come to see me over the years? They have completely forgotten me. Chu Xiao. It's ridiculous that I, a heavenly talent, am reduced to a lowly person after my spiritual heritage is damaged. Young master, let's go. Although my spiritual heritage is greatly damaged, I haven't become a good-for-nothing, and I don't need others to serve me. Young master. A moment later, Han Fei saw a girl with mediocre aptitude running to another hut in tears. However, the little girl didn't listen to Chu Xiao and left, but just ran into her room and cried. Chu Xiao. Han Fei was looking for him. Han Fei didn't know many people in the Chu sect, so he couldn't go to Chu Qingyin. Could he? This Chu Xiao, who was burned by Han Fei with the scorching sun true fire, and his spiritual heritage was destroyed by Han Fei. Could he? How could he change his spiritual heritage? He needed to change his destiny. Even a venerable couldn't easily change it. Therefore, even a venerable couldn't do anything except to seize another person's spiritual heritage. Did he want to repair Chu Xiao's spiritual vein? That was also extremely difficult. At this moment, Chu Xiao was sitting sloppily on the bed with a pale face. Want to cultivate? But every time spiritual energy gathered, he always coughed. Cough, 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 hum. Suddenly, Chu Xiao only saw some shadows of plants appear. He thought it was his illusion, but when he closed his eyes and opened them again, he suddenly found that he had appeared in an ancient forest. And in front of him, there was a person sitting, a person he had dreamed of countless times. Chu Xiao gnashed his teeth and said, Han Fei. Han Fei smiled slightly. You're not dreaming. Yes, it's me. It's really hard for you. After so many years, you still remember me. Chu Xiao clenched his fists. Even if you turn into ashes, I will still recognize you. Having said that, Chu Xiao didn't dare to move. Why would Han Fei find him? This was the Chu sect. How could Han Fei be on the cold moon island? Chu Xiao asked warily. What do you want to do? Instead of answering, Han Fei smiled and said, It seems that no one in the Chu sect can help you repair this damaged spiritual heritage. Chu Xiao narrowed his eyes. Of course, he knew how powerful Han Fei was now. He didn't miss any of Han Fei's deeds. Especially a year ago, Han Fei had become the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island and led millions of soldiers to fight against the sea demons. This made Chu Xiao lose the desire to take revenge. After all, the two were not on the same level at all. He had long admitted that Han Fei was indeed a peerless heavenly talent and that he couldn't compare with him. Chu Xiao said coldly, A venerable can't repair spiritual heritage. All this is thanks to you. Han Fei shrugged. It's indeed because of me, but a venerable can't do it. That's not true. It's a bit difficult, but in fact, as long as you spend a little time, it can be repaired. Also, if there are dozens or hundreds of ultra-quality spiritual fruits, you can recover at least 30% to 50%. After that, I can regenerate my broken meridians with lightning speed. It's not impossible to repair it. When Chu Xiao heard the hundreds of ultra-quality spiritual fruits, he snorted. That's easy for you to say. Hundreds of ultra-quality spiritual fruits? I couldn't even get one in my heyday. A few hundred? Are you dreaming? Han Fei smiled and said, Look, there are many ways to save you. It's just that those people of the Chu sect think you are useless and refuse to let you use them. Chu Xiao said coldly, What do you want? A wicked smile appeared on Han Fei's face. Me? Nothing much. I just wanted to chat with you and borrow your body. Of course, if you're obedient, I can also help you repair your spiritual meridian. Chu Xiao was shocked. Are you really that kind? Han Fei shrugged. Of course I don't have good intentions, but the Chu sect doesn't have good intentions towards you either. Do you think the Chu sect doesn't know my identity? Do you think it was a coincidence that they asked you to stop me? Do you think you're being used by others without knowing it? It's really sad. Chu Xiao's heart shook. He had been thinking about this for a long time. Han Fei had been making trouble in the Thousand-Star City for a long time. Who stopped him? As early as that year, he had guessed that he was being used. However, at that time, he was a heavenly talent and wanted to make some achievements. Therefore, at that time, the Chu sect was hostile to Han Fei, and he also regarded Han Fei as an enemy. Over the years, Chu Xiao's life had fallen to this point. Therefore, his resentment against Han Fei had already turned into resentment against the Chu sect. Chu Xiao thought, What do you want to do? Han Fei shrugged. Let me take a look at your soul first. Chapter 1492. Han Fei didn't intend to pretend to be Chu Xiao. After all, Chu Xiao was already a useless person. He couldn't even get in touch with the middle-level members of the Chu sect, let alone the senior members of the Chu sect. His strength had fallen from the law enforcer realm to the realm of a peak-level hanging fisher. He didn't have the face to go out and wander around in the family. And Han Fei was looking for this guy, although Han Fei trusted the god-deceiving precious technique very much. However, even the top precious technique was not as practical as a real person. After looking at Chu Xiao's soul, Han Fei had a general grasp of the position and layout of the entire Chu sect. As for the relationship between the characters, Han Fei just did a simple understanding. Han Fei calculated with his fingers and then released Chu Xiao. In front of Chu Xiao, Han Fei turned into a black mist and quietly returned to forge the universe. Han Fei said, Old Yuan, I'll leave this Chu Xiao to you. I'm going to the Soul Sea. The old turtle was speechless. Han Fei's luck is unparalleled. Of course, he knew why Han Fei was going to the Soul Sea. A wisp of black gas slowly penetrated into Chu Xiao's body. The old turtle sighed in his heart. Han Fei is so bad and has awakened the spiritual beast of the King Sparrow. He shouldn't be a character that can be easily killed. Unconsciously, the old turtle had slowly played his role. He didn't argue with Han Fei anymore. Now, he was just a little sad for the Chu men. He thought to himself, Of all the people you can mess with, why not? Why did you have to provoke this little devil? Great. I guarantee that your spiritual beast will suffer heavy casualties. In Forge the Universe, a complex and mysterious pattern appeared. Han Fei hadn't entered the Soul Sea for a long time. During the last tour of the Blood-Sea Divine Wood City in the Waterwood Heaven, Han Fei went there once, upgraded Little Black and Little White, and then came out. The reason why he didn't go to the Soul Sea was that there was no such environment. Han Fei had learned a lot about the secrets of the Soul Sea. Only by devouring spiritual beasts with owners would he not trigger the unknown horror and be kicked out of the Soul Sea. This was a very important rule of the Soul Sea. Han Fei's consciousness suddenly came to another world and appeared directly on Little Black. However, before Han Fei could see this Soul Sea world, he heard a cry above his head. That cry sounded like it had been stabbed by a knife. Who else could it be other than the Emperor Sparrow? Han Fei looked up and saw the proud Emperor Sparrow looking at him with his head lowered. The Imperial Sparrow is standing on Blackie. Han Fei was confused, but then again, that should be the case. He was a dual-talented spiritual beast. They couldn't be separated, could they? Since they appeared together, it was normal for them to be together. However, Han Fei couldn't afford to offend DK at this moment. He said telepathically, DK, let's go eat and drink. In fact, Han Fei's goal was a spiritual beast above level 70. There must be very few spiritual beasts of this kind. Killing one would be a great loss to the Chu sect, and it would be the best for the growth of Little Black and Little White. Little Black and Little White happened to be level 70, which was the level of an explorer. With Little Black's teeth, he could eat all the spiritual beasts within level 10. It could even be said that he could try devouring spiritual beasts above level 80. Xiao. At this moment, Little White completely understood what Han Fei meant. It wasn't the first time that the two of them had cooperated. Only the Emperor Sparrow was looking at Han Fei and Little White curiously. He was waiting with great interest to see what they were up to. Outside, Old Monster Chu and the others were having a meeting in the void. Old Monster Chu said, "This boy is cunning and has the ability to clone himself. Besides, his other clone is pure black, which can avoid perception and vision. We can only detect its existence through the surrounding space. You've all seen this kid's strength. If we let him go this time, I don't know how strong he will be in the future. With this boy's character, it's not just the Chu sect that he wants to take revenge on. The other clans were also helpless." Someone said, "Old Monster Chu, even you failed to subdue him. What other methods can we use to kill this kid now?" Old Monster Chu said, "Since he has appeared, he must go back to the Scattered Stars Island. Otherwise, how can he grow if he stays in the Thousand Star City? The Thousand Star City doesn't have an environment for venerables to grow quickly. Therefore, he must leave. What you need to do is to guard the checkpoints. I don't believe that he won't show up." While Old Monster Chu was having a meeting with a group of venerables, Han Fei had been lingering in the Soul Sea for a long time. It was not that Han Fei didn't want to take action, but because he was looking for a suitable place to do so. In the big clans, there was a clear hierarchy. The strong had their own residences, and not everyone could spy on them. Therefore, after avoiding dozens of independent and powerful spiritual beasts, Little White had been swimming toward a valley in the Soul Sea. Half an hour later, Han Fei saw a 100-meter-long giant serpent covered in pitch-black scales. Han Fei knew that he had arrived at the place. Soon, Han Fei saw a bronze-colored giant turtle, an octopus with a tentacle as long as 100 meters, a big shell engraved with colorful patterns, a purple and silver-colored ribbonfish floating vertically in the water, and a large conch with countless tentacles stretching out, looking like a sea anemone. There were a lot of creatures. Nearly half of them were explorers, and most of them were level 69. It could be said that level 69 was the realm of explorers. The number of these spiritual beasts was as many as 1,000. This didn't mean that the Chu sect alone had 1,000 explorers. Han Fei didn't believe that the Chu sect would have more than 1,000 explorers. To be exact, the owners of these spiritual beasts were also stuck at level 69. When their masters couldn't make any progress in their cultivation, they often chose to cultivate their spiritual beasts. After all, if their spiritual beast became stronger, it was equivalent to them becoming stronger. Therefore, many of these more than 1,000 spiritual beasts were stuck at level 69. The strength of their masters limited their growth. The cultivation tower of the Chu sect. This was a cultivation tower specially built for the outstanding disciples of the Chu sect. Each floor had a different room, representing a different level. Chu Luo was in seclusion, trying to break through to the semi-venerable realm. As long as he broke through this realm with his spiritual beast, the purple feather ribbon fish, he could even serve as a sparring partner for those who had just entered the venerable realm. Suddenly, Chu Luo's spirit shook, and he felt that there seemed to be a voice calling in his soul. However, at this moment, he was wholeheartedly devoted to cultivation and thought that he might become a semi-venerable. He was a little excited. In the Soul Sea, Han Fei turned into Big Black, whose body had expanded 5 or 6 times and was gnawing crazily. In just an instant, a big ribbon fish was gnawed into a sieve by Han Fei. The King Sparrow's cry was no longer as if it had been stabbed, but full of aggression. It was a little curious, so it went up and took a bite. Han Fei hurriedly said telepathically, "Be careful. These creatures are of a very high level. You may not be able to withstand them. I'll take you to eat some low-level ones later." The King Sparrow screamed to Han Fei discontentedly, thinking, "Are you looking down on me? I'm the King Sparrow. Can I even eat food?" The King Sparrow pecked and followed Little Black to drink soup. After a while, it drank a lot of blood, and Han Fei saw that the King Sparrow's body was glowing. After a while, it jumped once. After a while, it jumped again. In just a while, the King Sparrow's level suddenly rose from 1 to 9. It seemed to be a little full. After drinking about a mouthful of Little Black's blood and a mouthful of meat, the King Sparrow flew to Little White's forehead, seeming to have a sign of a breakthrough. Han Fei thought to himself, "I told you not to eat too much. Look, although you're improving quickly, you can't reach the sky in 1 step." However, Han Fei was also very surprised. How could a level 1 creature swallow the energy of an explorer? If it were an ordinary creature, it would definitely die. For example, if he caught a broken explorer-level creature and threw it into an army of marching sea leeches, would it be the marching sea leeches that would die? Or would that explorer-level creature die? The result was likely to be the annihilation of the marching sea leeches. What about the explorer-level creatures? He might even be able to hang on to his last breath. After all, the body of the marching sea leeches couldn't bear the huge energy of high-level creatures. However, the King Sparrow was different. It kept drinking blood and eating meat and leveling up 9 times in a row. When it was full, it ran to Little White's head and closed its eyes to rest. Nothing happened to it. Han Fei didn't care about this. Now that he had found the place, he had to seize the time to stuff himself. Not all the explorers were fools. Perhaps one person might not have noticed the anomaly, but not all of them would not have noticed it. Once they summoned their spiritual beasts, Han Fei wouldn't be able to eat them even if he wanted to. So, Han Fei bit a flood dragon. Who cares who it is? I'll eat it first. In the Chu sect cultivation tower. Soon, someone noticed that something was wrong. While Han Fei was gnawing, someone sensed that their spiritual beast wanted to come out on their own. As a result, when that person summoned his spiritual beast, he saw a complete fish head, but the fish body had completely disappeared, not even the bones. Wow, that person was horrified. What's going on? He had never encountered such a situation in his life. In fact, he shouldn't have summoned his spiritual beast at this time. If he did, his spiritual beast would die. If he didn't summon it, according to the characteristics of the Soul Sea, it would eventually become a level 1 spiritual beast. At the moment when that person's spiritual beast disappeared, Han Fei knew that this matter had been exposed. However, he didn't care. He would eat as much as he could. The Chu sect was so big, and there were so many people. He didn't believe there would be no food. Baji, finally, there was a commotion in the Chu sect cultivation tower. Someone exclaimed, "Everyone, pay attention. Summon your spiritual beasts. Hurry up. First." Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1493. At this moment, many people in the Chusek cultivation tower suddenly woke up. After the accident, they immediately called for help. However, things like cultivation were usually done alone in absolute silence. Some people would even set up a restriction formation in their mansions to ensure the effect of their cultivation. After a while, 30 or 40 people gathered under the cultivation tower, all of whom looked solemn. Someone said in a panic, "How is it? How's your spiritual beast?" Someone shouted angrily, "Damn, my spiritual beast has become a level 1 spiritual beast." Someone said with a gloomy face, "When I summoned it, it died." Someone was so angry that his face turned red. "Half of my spiritual beast was bitten, and it only has a breath left. But I don't dare to take it back." An honorable one suddenly appeared in this place. Before this, there were naturally people who went to report. As soon as this person came, he shouted, "What happened?" "Lord Feng, something happened to all our spiritual beasts." Damn it, before the man could finish his sentence, he saw an explorer carrying a big turtle directly jump down from the cultivation tower. Everyone was stunned by the appearance of the big turtle. Half of the turtle's neck was bitten off, and blood was flowing out of the turtle's shell. There was only one limb left. The inside of the shell was basically empty, and it was definitely going to die. Chu Feng immediately thought of one thing. A few years ago, in the Sky Meditation Garden, the spiritual beasts of many young disciples of the families all became level 1 spiritual beasts. As a venerable, he naturally knew more than these peak-level law enforcers or explorers. He had heard the speculation of the Soul Sea. His face changed drastically, and a terrifying pressure fell directly on the cultivation tower. BM, a large number of restrictions were directly broken. Many people who didn't have an accident thought that something big had happened. These people walked out of the cultivation tower one after another. When they saw that many people had gathered below, they were all dumbfounded. Someone asked doubtfully, "What happened?" "Lord Feng?" Chu Feng shouted, "Everyone, immediately summon all your spiritual beasts." There were still many people who didn't know what was going on. Suddenly, someone's expression changed, and he hurriedly summoned his spiritual beast. As a result, he saw a shark that had been bitten into a hornet's nest fall directly to the ground. Its body was basically hollowed out. The man stared blankly at this scene and couldn't believe his eyes. F***CK, am I dreaming? Seeing this, the others also quickly summoned their spiritual beasts. For a time, all kinds of spiritual beasts suddenly filled the outer square of the Chu Sect cultivation tower. As a result, all sorts of exclamations could be heard. In particular, those peak-level law enforcers had dozens of spiritual beasts that had become level 1 pets. This problem was too serious. The group of people looked at each other in dismay. For a moment, they were either angry or at a loss in the Soul Sea. When Han Fei found that all the spiritual beasts around him were gone, he felt terrible. These were all great tonics. In this short period of time, Little Black and Little White had stabilized their level 70 realm and directly reached level 71. After the breakthrough, Han Fei ate nearly 30 spiritual beasts. Han Fei felt that if he had another half an hour, Little Black and Little White would be able to level up again. However, the moment those creatures left, the rest were particularly dazzling. At this moment, Han Fei saw a hollow netherfish. The hollow netherfish was a kind of fish that could turn invisible and had extremely strong spiritual power. If it were other spiritual beasts, they might not be able to see it. However, Little Black and Little White's eyes could naturally see through the void. In Han Fei's eyes, information popped up. Name, Hollow Netherfish, Chu Feng Spiritual Beast. Introduction, this is an extremely lazy fish that will enter a state of stealth after a long period of stillness. The Hollow Netherfish's spiritual power is extremely strong. It can easily pierce with its spiritual power, kill creatures below its level, and devour a small part of the enemy's soul. Level 81, Quality, Exotic, Ultra Quality. The Hollow Netherfish obviously saw Little White and the Emperor Sparrow too. At this moment, the Emperor Sparrow was no longer level 9, but level 16 because it had just digested again. Han Fei had to admit that the speed of digestion and growth was amazing. Without any hesitation, Han Fei rushed up, his mouth wide open. However, the hollow nether fish seemed to feel threatened and directly launched a soul explosion. However, it underestimated Little Black's level. As soon as the soul explosion was launched, Han Fei controlled Little Black to bite the hollow netherfish's head. In the outside world, Chu Feng was delivering the message to Chu Min Wang when his face suddenly changed. In the next moment, his hollow netherfish appeared. However, what made his blood freeze was that half of his spiritual beast's head had been bitten off. At this moment, as soon as it came out of the soul sea, the hollow netherfish's head began to grow again. After all, it was a venerable creature. Ordinary venerables could be reborn from a single drop of blood, so could naturally endowed spiritual beasts. Chu Feng said with an awful face, "This time, I must ask the family leader about the soul sea. If it's not in the soul sea, why are so many people's spiritual beasts, including mine, being attacked?" Chu Feng even felt that in the spiritual beast world, something was maliciously slaughtering the spiritual beasts of the Chu family. In the soul sea, the emperor sparrow flew to Han Fei's head again and stuck its beak into its big mouth. Han Fei was speechless. "I haven't finished it yet. Don't you feel that you're drooling?" Anyway, Little Black had eaten quite a lot. It didn't matter if it was just 1 or 2 mouthfuls. Han Fei spat out the half of the fish head that he had bitten off. The monarch sparrow picked up an eyeball from the blood mist with its beak and swallowed it. One eyeball made the emperor's sparrow level up. Han Fei was speechless. Why didn't he take advantage of this period to upgrade the emperor sparrow's level? He could even feed it with spirit awakening fluid. In any case, he had plenty of these resources, and he could produce them as much as he wanted. Thousands of kilometers away, Old Monster Chu and Sect King Chu were looking for Han Fei to find out where he had gone. Suddenly, Chu Feng said to them via voice transmission, "Ancestor, Master, something happened at home." Chu Feng's words made Old Monster Chu and Sect King Chu look at each other in bewilderment. Both of them realized that Han Fei had gone to the Chu sect. They couldn't figure out, even if they racked their brains. If Han Fei had joined the Chu sect, wouldn't he have died? Was he out his mind? Old Monster Chu shouted, "All the strong masters of the Chu sect, go home." Swish, swish. After a while, when Old Monster Chu saw the group of level 1 spiritual beasts, his face became extremely dark. Old Monster Chu muttered, "What happened back then was really done by that kid." Sect King Chu narrowed his eyes and shouted, "All the disciples of the clan, immediately summon your spiritual beasts and open the array of the Chu sect. Everyone in the Chu sect is not allowed to leave the Chu sect without permission. Anyone who disobeys will die." Sect King Chu sent a voice transmission to the entire Chu sect. This was quite a big move. The Chu sect occupied the entire Cold Moon Island and had a population of hundreds of millions. Of course, there were also some forces belonging to the Chu sect. The Chu sect alone occupied 1/3 of the size of Cold Moon Island. As soon as this order was issued, countless people summoned their spiritual beasts and waited for the screening. In Chu Zhao's small yard, after hearing the voice transmission, the little maid hurriedly ran to Chu Zhao's room, holding a red octopus in her hand. "Young master, something happened. Hurry up and summon your spiritual beasts." Chu Zhao frowned. "I heard that. Didn't I tell you to go?" "Young master, I won't go. Hurry up and summon it." A big purple lobster appeared in the room. Chu Zhao pondered for a while and said, "Ling, go to your room. Something must have happened in the clan. There should be the perception of strong masters scanning here. Don't stay here." "Young master, are you really okay?" The little girl held the big octopus and asked with concern. Chu Zhao shook his head. "There are many strong masters in the clan. It's not your turn to worry." After driving the little girl away, Chu Zhao was shocked. What on earth did Han Fei do? How did he force the patriarch to order the whole clan to summon their spiritual beasts? Why did he summon his spiritual beasts? However, at this moment, Han Fei had disappeared without a trace. Chu Zhao was also very puzzled. What on earth did he do? Just when Chu Zhao was struggling in his heart, he heard a voice in Chu Zhao's mind. "There's no problem with your choice. On the path of cultivation, Of course, it's for your own good. The Chu sect abandoned you. What do you owe the Chu sect? From now on, don't speak, and don't mention the name Han Fei. No matter what happens, just pretend to be cultivating. Otherwise, you will not be able to escape death. Chu Xiao was about to ask, but the voice said, if you have any questions, just think about it in your heart. Chu Xiao asked, are you Han Fei? The old turtle cackled. I'm the emperor. God knew what story the old turtle told Chu Xiao. At this moment, Han Fei was very depressed. The Chu sect king was decisive enough. If he found a straggler, he would swallow it directly. After all, there were so many people in the Chu sect. After all, there would be a few stupid people who couldn't respond to the call in time and summon their spiritual beasts. However, Han Fei didn't panic at all. Chu Xiao was under the control of the old turtle, and he had to stay here. If you're a member of the Chu sect, why don't you carry your spiritual beasts on your back every day? Otherwise, I'll definitely eat you up. Second, asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1494. The Chu sect was extremely powerful, and the population of the main branch alone was hundreds of thousands of people. At this moment, they were all in a mess. Everyone's spiritual beasts were with them. When these people met each other, they were all dumbfounded. Chu Men King couldn't help it. Han Fei had somehow slaughtered the spiritual beasts with high-end combat power in the Chu sect. Although the Chu sect had a large number of people, they couldn't withstand a venerable slaughtering spiritual beasts at will in the legendary Soul Sea. In fact, Chu sect king had long known that Han Fei would retaliate and the Chu sect would inevitably suffer losses. However, he didn't expect that there was a problem with the Soul Sea. After this incident, the prestige of the Chu sect would inevitably be damaged. However, as the head of the family, he had to be decisive and minimize the losses. Damage prestige? As long as he killed the enemy, he could take it back. At this time, the Chu sect array had been opened. Chu sect king was sure that Han Fei had no reason to escape. But what Chu sect king didn't expect was that since Han Fei had come, he didn't intend to escape at all. Han Fei thought to himself, your Chu sect is so aggressive. Do you really think I won't cause trouble? At this moment, Han Fei didn't panic at all. By right, the Chu sect should be investigating the people in their clan at this moment. They would even tentatively let some weak people put their spiritual beasts in the Soul Sea. Han Fei was not in a hurry and decided to wait and see the effect. Unfortunately, this Soul Sea couldn't be connected with the outside world. Otherwise, he and the old tortoise would have been able to send the Chu sect into a state of disarray. Of course, Han Fei also felt the existence of stronger spiritual beasts. The meaning that Little White conveyed to Han Fei was that those spiritual beasts were all beyond his ability. Han Fei thought, that's true. Those who dared to put their spiritual beasts in the Soul Sea in such a situation must be very confident in their spiritual beasts. Han Fei knew that he couldn't hunt high-level venerable spiritual beasts for the time being. This kind of creature could be reborn from a drop of blood, and he couldn't kill them even if he wanted to. After all, the current strength of Little Black and Little White was still limited. Wait, Han Fei thought to himself, it's not entirely impossible. In fact, I can also try. The supreme yin-yang will slice through everything. What if it killed one? Of course, Han Fei didn't attack blindly. After devouring some more powerful spiritual beasts and leveling up to 72, he would hunt them again. In any case, even if the hunt failed, escaping was not a problem. As for the other party's spiritual beast, this was not something that would usually happen. Han Fei had been wondering if there were any rules in the Soul Sea that he didn't know. For example, when he entered the Soul Sea for the first time, he was still on a boat in the level 2 fishery. He saw an iron-hook squid in his Soul Sea. The squid's first reaction when it saw Little White was to attack. Because of this, Han Fei speculated that spiritual beasts would also fight each other in the Soul Sea. After all, primitive spiritual beasts would also kill each other. However, Han Fei no longer sensed that other spiritual beasts wanted to hunt Little Black and Little White. In the past, he only thought that Little Black was very fierce. Those creatures that encountered it would be lucky if they were not bitten to death. Who would dare to come up and bite Little White? But today, Han Fei found that he had already killed so many spiritual beasts. Those spiritual beasts were a little confused. They seemed to only know how to fight back in all directions, but they wouldn't directly attack Little White. This meant that they didn't attack their targets. However, Little White was clearly there, and they could also see it, but they just didn't attack. Why? This made Han Fei re-examine this problem. When he entered the Soul Sea for the first time, someone attacked him when his consciousness was immersed in the Soul Sea. At that time, it was because that person was about to hunt him. Therefore, his spiritual beast had a clear consciousness and wanted to attack Little White. Han Fei suddenly realized something. Could it be that when two people were fighting in reality, in fact, it was very likely that a battle was also breaking out in the Soul Sea at the same time? However, most people would basically fuse with their spiritual beasts when fighting. However, even so, there should be strange incidents of spiritual beasts suddenly dying. Or, some people's spiritual beasts inexplicably became level 1. He had never paid attention to this kind of case. When he went back in the future, he would have to check it carefully. As far as Han Fei's current conclusion was, the attitude of the enemy in reality was very likely to determine the attitude of the spiritual beast in the Soul Sea. Therefore, the relationship between the master and the spiritual beast might be closer than everyone thought. They were so close that their soul, mind, and consciousness were extremely synchronized. Understanding this, Little Black's eyes rolled a few times, and then he swam towards the extremely dangerous spiritual beast. The Emperor Sparrow let out a cry. Its voice no longer sounded like it had been stabbed, but a cry of excitement. It seemed to be encouraging Han Fei, hurry up and attack. This guy seemed to be adding fuel to the fire. Han Fei didn't dare to annoy this guy at this moment. He was doing something big. If he annoyed this guy, he would immediately get into trouble. He didn't even have a place to cry. In the conference hall of the Chu sect, King Chu had quickly issued an announcement. King Chu shouted to a group of core members who were explorers and law enforcers, "What exactly happened to your spiritual beasts? Let's talk about it later. Let's talk about the most important thing first. You should all know about Han Fei. This person has sneaked into our Chu sect. Now I suspect that he has a way to enter the Soul Sea and is concentrating on hunting the spiritual beasts of the masters of our clan." Wow! Many people took a breath, and someone exclaimed, "The Soul Sea really exists." Someone was shocked. "How we find this guy?" Someone was horrified. "I heard that this guy has already become a venerable. How could he sneak into the Chu sect in front of the family master?" This King Chu didn't care about the various voices below. He shouted, "I need you to screen everyone in the clan. If I find anyone who doesn't pay attention, don't blame me for being ruthless." After a while, King Chu issued some inspection methods and Han Fei's ability again, and then he sent all these people away. When all the experts below the Venerable Realm had left, a total of 6 people, including old eccentric Chu, appeared. Plus King Chu, there were a total of 7 people here. This was the current strength of the Chu sect. Old Monster Chu said, "Chu Feng, tell me what happened just now." Chu Feng stood up. "Ancestor, under the cultivation tower just now, there were indeed many people whose spiritual beasts were gnawed, and some of them became level 1 spiritual beasts. So, I have several speculations about the Soul Sea." Old Monster Chu said lightly. "Go ahead." Chu Feng said, "I've noticed that when the spiritual beasts were gnawed, they were still alive when they came out. However, this vitality was soon gone. This means that when they were attacked and seriously injured, they were not dead but about to die. So, when those creatures were summoned, they were being attacked." Old Monster Chu nodded slightly. "Continue." Chu Feng said, "It's incredible that their spiritual beasts became level 1. If Han Fei let his spiritual beasts gnaw and kill other people's spiritual beasts, why did his spiritual beasts become level 1 after being gnawed? I suspect that if the spiritual beasts die in the Soul Sea, they will not really die but retain their original form. The ones who died were all summoned." Old Monster Chu's eyes lit up. "Yes, continue." Being praised by the ancestor, Chu Feng said, "I'm wondering why Han Fei still broke into the Chu sect when he knew that it was unfathomable. Of course, he could attack the spiritual beasts of some strong masters. But with his strength alone, he won't be able to shake the foundation of our Chu sect. Then why did he come? Old Monster Chu said leisurely. Maybe, if he wants to hunt the spiritual beasts of the strong masters of the Chu sect, he must get close to the Chu sect first? Chu Feng immediately said, that's right. In reality, the closer we are, the closer the spiritual beasts of both sides will be in the Soul Sea. Old Monster Chu nodded. This analysis is very insightful. Fenger not bad. Chu Feng was overjoyed. Thank you for your praise, ancestor. However, what I don't know is why the spiritual beasts can't describe what the Soul Sea looks like and what they encounter in the Soul Sea. Old Monster Chu said, the Soul Sea is mysterious and extraordinary, but no one in this world has really seen it. It seems that Han Fei has indeed mastered some secrets that we don't know at all. So, if we catch Han Fei, we can find all the answers. Old Monster Chu's face was slightly cold. My home is not big. I want you to find him yourself. This kid is the #1 scourge of our Chu sect. His degree of danger is even comparable to that of the Chao family. When Old Monster Chu said this, everyone, including Old Monster Chu, looked at him in surprise. Can he be compared with the Chao family? Aren't you overestimating Han Fei? Old Monster Chu snorted coldly. Don't underestimate this person. This person has escaped from me 3 times. 8 years ago, he still had Han Guanshu to help him. But now, he can already deal with me by himself. Do you still think this kid is simple? Old Monster Chu spoke highly of Han Fei. He firmly believed that Han Fei had obtained too many opportunities in the Divine Palace recorded in the historical materials. A semi-venerable, almost a peak-level junior venerable in less than a year? The strongest combat power he exerted was even comparable to that of a peak-level advanced venerable. How could such a terrifying person be kept alive? And just when Old Monster Chu ordered a search for Han Fei, one of the people in the lower seats suddenly changed his face. Come out. In front of everyone, half a wind thunder flood dragon appeared in the conference hall of the Chu sect. Uncle Jun, what's wrong with you? Chu Jun said with an ugly face. Han Fei dares to hunt my wind thunder flood dragon. What should I do? The 3rd chapter. Mwah. End of this chapter. Chapter 1495. It was not easy to kill a venerable spiritual beast. Han Fei was fast enough. He got into the mouth of the wind thunder flood dragon by himself. Then he activated the supreme yin-yang wheel in its body. In an instant, the wind thunder flood dragon was cut into 7 or 8 pieces. All of this happened in just a second. The wind thunder flood dragon was pulled out of Forge the Universe. And around the wind thunder flood dragon, the other venerable spiritual beasts all became vigilant and entered a fighting state. This was the difference between venerable spiritual beasts and other ordinary spiritual beasts. However, what shocked Han Fei was not the strength of these spiritual beasts, but their number. Plus the spiritual beast that was killed by him, there were a total of 7 venerable spiritual beasts here. The growth of spiritual beasts was based on the growth limit of their masters. This meant that there were 7 venerables in the Chu sect. However, although the wind thunder flood dragon called Chu Jun managed to escape, it only managed to escape with a portion of its body. The rest was still eaten by Han Fei. The Imperial Sparrow followed him, groaning and eating. He had to admit that the effect of high-level spiritual beasts was really different. The Imperial Sparrow upgraded again. Although Little Black and Little White hadn't upgraded yet, Han Fei had already felt that they were not far away from upgrading. 3 days later, in the house where Chu Xiao was, someone knocked on the door and shouted, Chu Xiao, open the door, Chu Xiao. After a while, Little Ling opened the door and said, What are you doing? Our young master is cultivating. Someone sneered. Cultivating? From a law enforcer to a hanging fisher? If he continues to cultivate, won't he become a dangling fisher? Little Ling said angrily. Our young master will definitely be able to cultivate back. BM, these people were not interested in wasting their breath on a little girl. With a blast of air, the little girl flew out and fell heavily to the ground. These people were accompanied by their spiritual beasts, big crabs, jellyfish, anti-heaven blades, soul-eating lobsters. They all bared their fangs and brandished their claws, rushing into the yard. Chu Liang, what do you want? How dare you attack my people? Aren't you afraid of being punished by the law enforcement hall? The guy called Chu Liang laughed at this moment. The law enforcement hall will punish me? Chu Xiao, I'm afraid that you don't know the situation. You have to realize your place. You're just a peak-level hanging fisher. Law enforcement hall? Chu Xiao's face turned red. Of course, he knew why these people kept picking on him. Experts, especially geniuses, had always been very arrogant. He had once been one of the brightest stars of the Chu sect. In the past, it was not that he had never bullied others, and he had also enjoyed the flattery of these people. This Chu Liang and the few people around him were all trash who had flattered him before, but he couldn't even be bothered to look at them. Now, Chu Liang had actually reached the law enforcer realm. Therefore, he wanted to bully them. This was not the first time he had come to pick a fight. In the past, Chu Xiao's strength hadn't fallen too much, and Chu Liang hadn't become a law enforcer, so he didn't dare to mess around. Now that he had completely fallen from the level of a hidden fisher, Chu Liang naturally became bolder. Little Ling quickly got up and looked at Chu Xiao with a worried face. Young master. Chu Xiao suppressed his inner anger and said in a low voice, Chu Liang, what's the matter? Chu Liang sneered, swaggered into the courtyard, and said lazily, a strong master of the Chu sect has broken in. Unfortunately, as the strongest heavenly talent in this area, I have to be vigilant. But your small courtyard is closed all year round. Could it be that the thief is in your courtyard? Chu Xiao sneered. Haha, how can a strong master who can break into the Chu sect be in my small courtyard? Do you believe that? Before Chu Xiao spoke, he heard another person say, that's hard to say. What if you have been possessed and are no longer the original Chu Xiao? Ha! After that person said that, Chu Liang and the others laughed. In fact, anyone who was possessed would usually become stronger crazily. How could someone's strength keep declining? Chu Liang hurriedly said, yes, this is very reasonable. I suspect that you may have been possessed. So, I want to test your strength with my own hands. No, you're clearly bullying people. Little Ling stood in front of Chu Xiao. You're already a law enforcer, but my young master is only a peak-level hanging fisher. You're doing this on purpose. Chu Liang slapped her, and little Ling flew out again. Even then, Chu Liang still cursed. What an eyesore. Since when does a little girl dare to be presumptuous in front of me? Chu Xiao stared at Chu Liang fiercely and gritted his teeth. Okay, then let's have a fight. Young master, no, you can't fight. Chu Xiao turned his head and scolded. Shut up. I like to see how strong you are. Crack, 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 a purple lobster quickly crawled out of the house. When they saw this purple gold lobster, Chu Liang and the others narrowed their eyes. Before, they had never dared to provoke Chu Xiao because of this purple gold lobster. However, the purple gold lobster was only level 55, only an intermediate hidden fisher. Even if it was a deterrent, it was not enough. Chu Liang chuckled. This is a battle between spiritual beasts. Let them solve it themselves. With that, a group of spiritual beasts surrounded the purple gold lobster. What was going to happen next could be imagined. Chu Xiao would never beg for mercy. As a heavenly talent, he wouldn't allow Chu Xiao to beg for mercy. Clang, 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 clang. The purple gold lobster was besieged and made all kinds of sounds. Fortunately, the purple gold lobster's defensive power was extremely strong. Although it was only an intermediate hidden fisher, its defensive power was comparable to that of an ordinary peak-level hidden fisher. However, the purple gold lobster could bear it, but Chu Xiao couldn't. At this moment, he was already lying on the ground. In just more than 2 minutes, he had been punched and kicked hundreds of times, and his body was covered with scars. Clang. Chu Liang stabbed a spear into the ground, stuck it by Chu Xiao's neck, and stepped on Chu Xiao's back. He sneered and said, Look, where's your arrogance? Why is it gone? Someone sneered. Brother Liang, he has been crippled. How can he still be arrogant? Someone sneered. Chu Xiao, who was once arrogant, has now been reduced to this. Sure enough, the river flows east for 30 years, and then west for 30 years. Chu Shao spat out a mouthful of blood. Kill me if you dare. Otherwise, I will kill you sooner or later. Chu Yang looked at him, and his face darkened. How dare you be so stubborn? Continue to beat me. Fighting and fighting were two completely different things. Just like now, Chu Shao was beaten. This couldn't be regarded as a fight. He could only be beaten unilaterally. At this moment, Chu Shao leaned against the bed in pain, and little Linger cried. Young master, let's go to the law enforcement hall, elder, shall we? Chu Shao shook his head. No. How can I not know the law enforcement hall of the Chu sect? I have lost my power, and the law enforcement hall will not help me. In the name of healing his wounds, Chu Shao sent little Ling away. At this time, in Chu Zhao's heart, the old turtle's voice sounded leisurely. You see, the rules of this world have always been set by the strong. Now, they're just here to bully you. If you wait for these people to grow up for a while, it will be almost impossible for you to survive in the Chu sect. How could Chu Shao not know this? Otherwise, he would have given Han Fei and the others away. Chu Shao asked, Will you really help me repair the damage to my spiritual heritage? The old turtle said leisurely, No, it's Han Fei. He will, as long as you can play a big role. In the past 3 days, almost every morning, afternoon, and night, 3 times a day, there were people interrogating and questioning him, never stopping. In the conference hall of the Chu sect, the members of the elder group were all present. Someone said, We can't go on like this. The 3-day search yielded no results. Could it be that Han Fei had already escaped when he attacked? Someone also frowned and said, Yes, the mountain protecting array consumes a lot of energy every day. If this goes on, people will be in a panic. Someone said, Master, why don't we let some people's spiritual beasts return? Can we detect if Han Fei is still there? The 7 venerables searched for 3 days, but to no avail. Even the pure black shadow that old Monster Chu said couldn't be found. At this time, even King Chu guessed that Han Fei had probably run away. King Chu said, Let all the disciples below the hidden fisher realm take back their spiritual beasts. In addition, arrange 1,000 hidden fishers to take back their spiritual beasts and 100 law enforcers to take back their spiritual beasts. Han Fei wandered in the Soul Sea for 3 days and ate some primitive spiritual beasts. He was not in a hurry anyway. It was no big deal that the Scattered Stars Island was missing him. Besides, Shueshenshi was still there. Suddenly, before Little White said anything, Han Fei felt that the number of spiritual beasts around him suddenly increased, and then more and more. After a while, they were everywhere. Little White, find a spiritual beast above level 70. Huh, very few? How many? 3 to 5? What about those above level 80? No, Han Fei sneered in his heart. This is fishing, luring me to take the bait. However, I won't be fooled by this. The Soul Sea is here now, but I don't know when it will come again. How can I leave so easily? Another 3 days passed. The number of inspections of the Chu sect changed from 3 times a day to once a day. He really couldn't find any. There was nothing he could do. 3 days later, the spiritual beasts of law enforcers and explorers returned to the Soul Sea one after another. However, not good. My spiritual beast has died. Hurry up and summon your spiritual beasts. Han Fei, that scoundrel hasn't left yet. King Chu was furious. This guy is still in the Chu sect. Where is he hiding? King Chu ordered, Those above the law enforcer realm, summon your spiritual beasts. Old Monster Chu appeared in the conference hall with an ugly face. Good. No wonder he is Han Guanshu's son. Chapter 1496. In the Soul Sea. After hunting for a while, Little Black and Little White successfully advanced to level 73. Then, those spiritual beasts went out again. When these spiritual beasts were summoned for the second time, Han Fei didn't continue to wait, but quickly hunted primitive spiritual beasts. Finally, after half a day, Little Black and Little White failed to break through to level 74. They seemed to be stuck. At this time, the horrible feeling came again, and Han Fei's consciousness returned to forge the universe. As soon as he came back to his senses, Han Fei still felt a slight headache. After a few minutes, it gradually improved. The old turtle said, "My consciousness has been away from my body for too long. Don't worry about it. Did you swallow a lot of spiritual beasts in the soul sea?" Han Fei got up and said lightly, "Not many, just a few hundred." The old turtle really wanted to roll his eyes at Han Fei. "The spiritual beasts that I worked so hard to cultivate were eaten by you casually. Just a few hundred? How many more do you want to eat?" Han Fei asked. "Old Yuan, what's the situation outside? Is Chu Xiao okay?" The old turtle said, "Chu Xiao has a deep hatred for the Chu sect. He has been persuaded by me to completely betray the Chu sect. You can make use of him to do something." Han Fei sneered. "What can Chu Xiao do now? He is disabled and can no longer integrate into the law enforcement circle. No one will like him. Low-level groups are not my targets. What do you think he can do?" The old turtle said, "That's not true. Everyone has their own meaning of existence. It's normal for one's luck to fluctuate. His damaged spiritual heritage can be solved with just a heavenly awakening divine technique. But God knows what kind of revenge he will do to the Chu sect." Han Fei froze for a moment and then thought. His spiritual heritage suddenly improved. People will definitely find out that something is wrong, right? The old turtle said leisurely, "Who do you think will care about an outdated heavenly talent who has wasted 7 or 8 years? There are many examples of a person bursting out after enduring for a long time. He just needs to stop cultivating for the time being. Although his spiritual heritage will be repaired, his strength will not improve. Of course, it will also improve very quickly." Han Fei suddenly had an idea. He grinned and said, "Old Yuan, it's me. I realize that you're the worst." The old tortoise said leisurely, "No, I'm not as bad as you." 2 days later. This time, Chu Min King sent a hidden fisher to test the waters, and there wouldn't be any problem. However, the experts would rather take their spiritual beasts with them than put them into their soul seas to test it. But these people didn't know that Han Fei had already come out of the soul sea. In these 2 days, Chu Xiao's courtyard was not completely quiet. Chu Xiao asked Ling to visit a few of his former law enforcers. Those people were once weaker than him. Therefore, Chu Xiao planned to buy some resources with the secret method. But that day, Chu Xiao's courtyard was kicked open again. It was the same Chu Liang from 2 days ago, but this time, he only brought 2 people with him. Chu Liang shouted coldly, "Where is Chu Xiao? Get out here!" Little Ling had already blocked Chu Xiao's door. She said stubbornly, "Young master, don't come out. This bad guy's up to no good." Chu Liang sneered, "You little girl, you only know how to get in the way all day. Don't worry, as long as your young master is sensible today, I can spare your young master." Creak! The door opened, and Chu Xiao, with a pale face, put a hand on little Ling Er's shoulder. "Get out of the way, young master." Chu Xiao pushed little Ling Er away and walked straight to Chu Liang, his eyes cold as if looking at a dead person. "Speak." Chu Liang was speechless. "CK, you're already like this. Why are you still so arrogant?" Chu Liang wanted to kick him to death. However, Chu Liang knew that Chu Xiao was arrogant. He came with a purpose today, not to fight. Chu Liang smiled and said, "Chu Xiao, don't say that I didn't give you a chance. Back then, you were very mean to everyone. I might as well tell you what happened in the past. I just wanted to get back at you. If you want to not get back at you, fine. I know you have a secret method, Wind Spirit Finger. Give it to me, and I won't bother you anymore." Little Ling was shocked. "Young master, those people," Chu Xiao shouted in a low voice, "shut up." Little Ling Er's face was pale. Those people used to be members of her young master's team. But now, they betrayed her young master. It was too much. Chu Xiao was silent for a long time. Chu Yang thought that Chu Xiao was arrogant again, so he immediately said, "Chu Xiao, a wise man submits to circumstances. As the saying goes, an innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. Give it to me, and I won't have time to bother you in the future." Chu Xiao raised his head slightly. "Okay." Chu Yang's eyes flashed. He didn't expect that Chu Xiao would agree. Although he also came with a task, he must have a share of the Wind Spirit Finger. Chu Xiao turned over his hand and handed a jade slip to Chu Liang. "From now on, you and I have nothing to do with each other." Chu Yang was not in the mood to find fault at this moment. It was said that this secret method was one of Chu Zhao's strongest secret methods. He had to go back and make a copy. After a while, when Chu Yang and the others left, Chu Xiao looked back at little Ling Er. This has nothing to do with you. It's just a secret technique. If it's gone, then it's gone. I still have more. However, little Ling Er still kept apologizing. In the end, Chu Xiao simply ignored her. After Chu Yang obtained the wind spirit finger, he sent away his 2 followers, promised them some benefits, and impatiently returned home. Chu Yang grabbed the jade slip and sneered. Chu Xiao, tut, I didn't expect that you would have such a day. Heh, you want me to let you off with just a mere wind spirit finger? What a fool's dream. When Chu Yang's perception swept over, his whole body suddenly stiffened. But then, everything returned to normal. However, Chu Yang's expression was no longer that excited. Instead, he revealed a strange smile. Law enforcers were considered experts in the Chu sect and could go to many places. However, Chu Yang didn't give it to Chu Zhao's former teammates. Because when little Ling Er had found those people, they had already fallen into the trap. One of Han Fei's great paths had been replaced by the soul-splitting path, a low-level great path, but a mature one. Nothing happened that day. However, communication between people was essential every day, especially those investigators who went from house to house to investigate, coming and going every day. Besides, Han Fei didn't care about the spiritual beasts of those people below the law enforcer realm. Therefore, none of these people had an accident. Everyone had the same thought. Since that strong expert could sneak into the Chu sect, why would he come after them? Nothing happened for 2 days. Nothing happened for 3 days. After 7 days, ordinary people might not know, but the entire Chu sect had been searched by the 7 venerables more than a dozen times. Even Chu Xiao, a cripple, had been swept by the souls of venerables no less than 20 times. Of course, the Chu sect had cleaned up the sect this time. Han Fei didn't find anyone, but the spies of the other major families found hundreds of people. The spies of the 7 major sects also found hundreds of people. These people were killed the moment they were discovered. They did not show any mercy at all, and more than 20 people controlled by Han Fei's soul-splitting path had died. However, even Old Monster Chu didn't think that these people were controlled, only that they were men of sacrifice. As soon as they were found, their souls had been destroyed. 7 days later, King Chu issued an order, announcing that the crisis had been resolved. However, those above the Explorer realm would still take their spiritual beasts with them. They didn't want to take the risk. However, after a day or two, no one said that their spiritual beasts were killed. Only then did some explorers try to take back their spiritual beasts. Within a day, they summoned their spiritual beasts more than a dozen times, but nothing happened. This kind of test lasted for 3 days before everyone was sure that there was no abnormality in the Soul Sea. In the conference hall of the Chu sect, someone said, "We still need to observe for a while. If Han Fei really doesn't attack anymore, it means that the crisis of the Soul Sea has been resolved. This shows that even if Han Fei can affect the Soul Sea, it won't last very long, probably between 5 to 10 days. Someone said, the Chu sect's array hasn't been loosened, so we can't take it lightly. Han Fei was very cunning. If we can't find anything, it means that he must be planning something else." Someone shook his head. "I think he might just be hiding. For example, he might be disguised as someone. This kid's disguise skill is really good. Now, there must be something that we have overlooked." Boom! Suddenly, a violent explosion resounded through the entire Chu sect. The venerables looked at each other and disappeared from the conference hall at the same time. Boom, 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 almost at the same time, terrifying explosions took place in hundreds of places in the Chu sect. Demonic energy. Old Monster Chu and the others were surprised. The entire Chu sect was filled with demonic energy, which was the aftermath of the explosion. Damn it, did Han Fei cooperate with the sea demons? Chu Feng said coldly. No one survived. All of them self-destructed and erupted with demonic energy at the same time. It must be Han Fei's doing. At this moment, the sky above the Chu sect was full of strong masters. All the young disciples below the hidden fissure level had left the house. That explosion covered a range of hundreds of kilometers, directly covering all the areas of the Chu sect, causing countless casualties. Chu Jun gnashed his teeth and said, "Bastard, this kid doesn't care about the casualties of ordinary disciples at all. He wants to destroy our Chu sect." Suddenly, old monster Chu clawed at the cultivation tower with his sky-ripping claw. There was a distortion there, billions of demonic energy spread out, and the entire cultivation tower collapsed. Time freeze. King Chu hurriedly blocked it with his Dao. Seeing this scene from a distance, Han Fei was shocked. The power of a peak-level venerable should not be underestimated. The explosion of 3 billion demonic energy was blocked by his Dao. Old monster Chu took the opportunity to fish out more than 300 strong masters in the cultivation tower. Almost at the same time, Chu Feng, Chu Jun, and the others grabbed at this group of strange people. Boom, boom, boom. The 7 venerables crushed more than 50 people, but more than 50 explosions were triggered around them. Han Fei's voice echoed in the air. "Old monster Chu, is this game fun? If you want to play, I'll continue to play with you. If you don't want to play, open the seal and let 1,000,000 people leave Cold Moon Island together. Otherwise, I'll play with your Chu sect to the end." Chapter 1497. In this wave, Han Fei threw out a quarter of his reserved ultra-quality demonic stones. Such a huge amount almost made Han Fei have a nosebleed. The entire Chu sect seemed to have been gnawed by dogs. Except for the cultivation tower, almost all the other places had exploded. How could only 7 venerables control all the explosions in the entire Chu sect? Of course, Han Fei still avoided most of the areas where low-level cultivators lived. Otherwise, he would have killed too many people. In the words of the old turtle, he had a lot of bad karma. The repeated attacks of the Chu sect had made him unable to bear it. Before he became a venerable, he really couldn't beat these big clans. Now that he was a venerable, he had many means. Why wouldn't he dare to come? If it weren't for the Chu sect, Han Fei would have launched another war in the Thousand-Star City to thwart the power of the big clans. What Han Fei didn't know was that under this coverage explosion that swept through the Chu sect, most people had no choice but to use their contractual spiritual beasts and spiritual beasts to resist. It could be said that only this time, the Chu sect had lost more than 100,000 people, contractual spiritual beasts and spiritual beasts. Except for a few places, almost all the areas of the Chu sect have been bitten by dogs. After all, so many ultra-quality demonic stones have been spent. How could there be no effect? Old monster Chu, King Chu, and the other venerables all looked extremely gloomy. Han Fei was really crazy. Now, he had started to ignore the rules and even beat the weak. At the moment when everyone was furious, old freak Chu brazenly attacked. With one hand, he grabbed toward the Chu family's treasury. Because, at this moment, a black shadow had quietly sneaked in. Seal. Soul suppressor kill. When Han Fei entered the Chu sect's treasure house, he knew that he had been fooled. F***CK. All the good things were gone, and the rest were just some rubbish, probably to attract his attention. The other 6 venerables all gathered in the treasure house almost at the same time. Because the treasure house was an important place of the Chu sect, ordinary people were not allowed to come without permission. Therefore, there weren't many people here. King Chu shouted, "Spear time!" Clang. Bells rang, ice condensed, and a large number of attacks covered the treasure house in an instant. Han Fei suddenly raised his head. "Come on, I'm not afraid of you. I will explode." This time, Han Fei held 2 wisps of chaotic energy in each hand. Along with his body of black fog, he self-destructed. Seeing this, Chu Min Wang and the other venerables couldn't believe their eyes. He even blew himself up? He was a madman. Old monster Chu opened his hand, and in an instant, it covered an area of nearly 100 kilometers, trying to suppress Han Fei's terrifying strike. Rumble, buzz, buzz, as the earthquake erupted, the winds and clouds changed on Cold Moon Island. Spirit energy and energy became chaotic. A terrifying bombardment was teleported to the void and directly rumbled towards the inner area of the Thousand-Star City, radiating a range of more than 2,000 kilometers. However, this power exploded in the void, so it did not harm the innocent. However, the sky was instantly filled with cracks in the void. Puff, puff, puff. In Han Fei's terrifying self-explosion, only half of old Monster Chu's arm was left. The area within 300 miles of the Chu sect's treasury was completely flattened, with not even a blade of grass growing. On the ground, a huge deep pit was blasted out, and many buildings on Cold Moon Island, except for the Chu sect's treasury, collapsed. In the horrified eyes of the other venerables, old Monster Chu's arm grew back at a speed visible to the naked eye. Han Fei is not dead. This is just a clone of him. A clone with the strength of a venerable. Everyone was shocked. How could a clone of Han Fei be so powerful? Chu Min Wang frowned. Ancestor, in our territory, do you still want to capture him? Old Monster Chu's eyes narrowed slightly, and he said lightly, do you dare to release him? The venerables were speechless. They really didn't dare to release him. Han Fei was so arrogant in his own territory. If Han Fei was given a few more years to develop, how strong would he be? Once Han Fei's strength improved again and reached the intermediate or advanced venerable realm, who knew how strong this guy would be? In Forge the Universe, Han Fei's face was pale. I'm still not strong enough. If it weren't for old Monster Chu and Chu Min Wang, Han Fei felt that he could already kill his way out. Unfortunately, now he could only use ultra-quality demonic stones and chaotic chi to fight the Chu sect head-on. The old turtle was speechless. Boy, how many resources did you use? Even your lifespan has been shortened by 200 years. Han Fei took a few quick breaths. He hadn't tried to self-destruct with a body of black fog before. Although he canceled the Gemini divine technique as soon as possible, his body was directly seriously injured. Apocalypse divine technique. When a beam of light descended on Forge the Universe, after a full 10 minutes, Han Fei let out a long breath and said, resources are taken from heaven and earth and used for the sake of heaven and earth. There's nothing to regret. However, I didn't expect this Chu sect to be so strong that he could resist such violent power with one hand. The old turtle said, if the Chu sect is still sealed, what are you going to do? Han Fei's face was gloomy. Then let's do it again. And this time, I'm going to crush the Chu sect. Witch King's road isn't a sea of blood and mountains of corpses. I like to see if the Chu sect dares to gamble. If he dares to gamble, I dare to bet. At this time, Han Fei didn't care about the bad karma at all. In the Age of Doom, the 100,000 Mountains, the Giant Clan, the Beast Clan, the City of Justice, the City of Heavenly Desolation, clans and cities were destroyed. Even if there were innocent people in the Chu sect, they were all enemies. So what if they were killed? At this moment, Han Fei's heart was surging and he was furious. A tyrant was also a king. Which powerful king hadn't suppressed his disobedient subjects with blood? In the outside world, Chu Zhao's small courtyard was also crushed to the ground, but Han Fei gave him a few fish skin maps. Therefore, when it was necessary, he blocked the pressure and protected his little servant girl. At this moment, little Ling Er's face was pale. Young master, that Han Fei, is he a big devil? He wants to kill millions of people of the Chu sect? Chu Xiao thought to himself, what do you know about a big devil? The Chu sect has never been a good person. However, no matter how calm Chu Xiao was, he was extremely shocked. It was just a jade slip, but it caused such terrible consequences. If little Ling were to find out that all of this was caused by the jade slip that she was holding, who knew what she would think? However, Chu Zhao's heart didn't fluctuate much because Han Fei had healed his spiritual heritage. If the devil meant what he said, then so what if he made a deal with the devil? Chu Xiao was just waiting for an opportunity to leave the Chu sect. At that time, he would enter the Scattered Stars Island and travel around. On this day, the entire Thousand Star City was watching the Chu sect. The students of the 7 major sects didn't know what was going on. However, those at the level of the elders all knew about it. These people were also shocked. What kind of method did Han Fei use? How did he turn the Chu sect into such a mess? The big clans were also shocked. For example, the Sun family, the Mo family, the The Zhang family, the Li family, the Yang family, the masters of these big clans were all silent at this moment. That was on the Chu sect's own territory on the Cold Moon Island. If Han Fei could still escape, that meant that Han Fei couldn't be controlled anymore. And if the Chu sect couldn't control him, basically no one in the Thousand Star City dared to say that they could catch Han Fei except for the Chao family. Han Fei's former enemies all looked at each other at this moment. The Li family. Li Hai said, "Don't think about it. We can't be angry with that guy anymore." Li Baijiu nodded. "It's useless to be angry. That guy can kill us with one finger now." The two brothers echoed each other and expressed their thoughts. The Mo family. Mo Fian hadn't appeared for a long time. At this moment, a beautiful woman next to her said, "Fian, if you have a chance to meet Han Fei in the future, don't provoke him. If you really meet him with his strength, he won't care about you anymore." The Yang family. Yang Yu scratched his head. "Son of AB *TCH. I already said that this person is very dangerous." Sister Nanchi, "Do you think that guy will come to beat us in the future?" Yang Nanchi was still wearing 2 small braids. "It's hard to say. Han Fei really has the potential to become a king. He is so much faster than me. Humph, I will definitely catch up with him." Yang Yu was speechless. F***CK. You have the potential to become a king? Who gave you the confidence? The Chao family. Chao Jiren looked at Chao Qiu, who looked indifferent, and sighed slightly. Han Fei is really a mystery. Except for his father's help, in this Thousand-Star City, only you can compete with him. Chao Qiu had grown taller and was no longer fat, but he had changed a lot. Hearing Chao Jiren's words, he shook his head slightly. "I can't beat him. If I lose one step, I'll lose many more steps. There's nothing to worry about. It's just that he becomes a king first, and I'll follow." The Chu sect. King Chu knew that he couldn't let go of Han Fei. However, if he had to trap Han Fei here, he couldn't find him either. After all, the Chu sect couldn't be closed forever. Besides, what if Han Fei did something like this again? That was the death of more than 100,000 members of the Chu sect. In the conference hall of the Chu sect, several venerables watched a wisp of soul fire float over leisurely. Anyway, his soul power was already damaged. This time, he used the soul-splitting doctrine to control people and lost a lot again, but he didn't care. The venerables of the Chu sect looked at this wisp of soul fire, and Han Fei's voice floated out of it. "In 3 days, millions of members of the Chu sect must leave Cold Moon Island. Otherwise, they will all die." Old Monster Chu's voice was cold. "Boy, are you threatening me?" The soul fire trembled and laughed. Old Beaster starred. "I'm threatening you. What can you do? If you have the guts, don't open the array of the Chu sect in 3 days. Let's see if I can keep my word." Bam! After saying this, the soul fire exploded and turned into a fist with a middle finger in the air, looking at Old Monster Chu and the others with disdain. Chapter 1498. In the conference hall of the Chu sect, it was freezing cold. How could the Chu sect venerables not be angry at Han Fei's provocation? After a few minutes, Old Monster Chu said hoarsely, "There's something wrong with this kid's Tao. This soul technique has a very strong Tao. It should be a certain kind of Tao of the soul. According to this kid's past experience, he clearly didn't take this Tao. Did he change his Tao after becoming a venerable? Or did he become a venerable after taking multiple Taos?" However, it was useless to care about what Tao Han Fei took now. Since Han Fei dared to show up like this, it meant that he was confident enough that no one in the Chu sect could find him. However, once all the disciples of the Chu sect left the Cold Moon Island, wouldn't Han Fei run away? If they wanted to find him, would they have to look for him in the sky? Han Fei's camouflage skill had reached a level where even a demi-king couldn't find him. He was even more untraceable when mixed in with millions of people. Besides, what troubled these Chu sect venerables the most was not this, but his doppelganger. Especially Han Fei's Black Shadow doppelganger. That thing, if one wasn't careful, could run right under one's nose and not be discovered. However, if he didn't let the tiger go back to the mountain, if Han Fei really detonated himself in the residential area of ordinary clan members again, the consequences would be incalculable. Was Han Fei capable of doing that? Almost at the same time, Old Monster Chu and Sect King Chu both thought that there was nothing this kid couldn't do. In terms of cruelty, Han Fei was even more ruthless than the big clans. It was probably the first time in human history that he killed a human venerable in front of millions of soldiers of the Scattered Stars Island. Besides, anyone who could become the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island was not a soft-hearted person. It was impossible for a soft-hearted person to become the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island. They had to face the death of their soldiers every day. Over the years, how could the weak endure it? Release. In the end, Old Monster Chu gave such a result. It was not that he wanted to release them, but that he had to. Half a day later, Sect King Chu's voice covered the entire Chu sect. All disciples of the clan can freely enter and exit the Cold Moon Island. He didn't open the Thousand-Star Proving Ground because he was worried that Han Fei would rob the Chu sect of its resources. Han Fei, on the other hand, was full of disdain. I've already been to the Divine Palace. Why would I care about the secrets in your star-breaking beads? One day later, after the Chu sect lifted the ban, over 1 million members of the Chu sect flew away from Cold Moon Island. The other citizens of Cold Moon Island panicked and left as well. For a time, it was as if they were fleeing for their lives. The sky was filled with flying ships like locusts, and they covered the heavens and the earth. On a fishing boat, Chu Xiao and Ling were sitting. Little Ling looked back at the Cold Moon Island. Young master, is Han Fei going to fight the ancestral patriarch? Chu Xiao said lightly. What does it have to do with you? Who do you want to win? Little Ling immediately said, Chu Min, Han Fei is so evil. I heard that he killed more than 100,000 people. He's insane. He's a devil. Han Fei, who was disguised as Chu Xiao, twitched the corner of his mouth and thought, Little girl, you're really talking nonsense. Do you know how many people have died directly or indirectly in the hands of the Chu sect over the years? Han Fei didn't care about Chu Xiao's life. Anyway, he was just taking advantage of him. However, this little girl was not bad. Han Fei secretly pointed at her, and the little girl's spirit shook, and she fell into a state of chaos. At this moment, they had already left Cold Moon Island. After the people of the Chu sect left, they scattered in all directions. Some went to the arena, some went to the treasure pavilion, some went to the sky meditation garden, and some went to the ideal palace. However, even so, they didn't dare to discuss what happened in the clan openly because they knew that it was not something they could discuss. The reason why the patriarch asked them to come out was most likely to protect their lives. After crossing 3 islands in a row, Han Fei pinched his fingers and felt that no one was paying attention. Then he released Chu Xiao in an inconspicuous place. When Chu Xiao came out, the person in front of him was no longer Han Fei, but a middle-aged man with a big beard. Looking back, he found that little Ling was lying in the corner of the ship, sleeping soundly. He asked, What's wrong with her? Han Fei smiled slightly. Maybe she had an epiphany. Chu Xiao was stunned for a moment. Han Fei had disappeared. Looking at the disappearing void, Chu Xiao couldn't help but smile bitterly. His life was really tragic. Half a day later, Han Fei was not in a hurry to leave the Thousand-Star City. Originally, he wanted to leave. However, after the incident with the Chu sect, he didn't want to leave for the time being, because he found that no one in the Thousand-Star City could touch him. The entire Thousand-Star City had a population of hundreds of millions. He could even disguise himself as anyone. Street vendors, shop owners, pedestrians on the road. Even if there were many strong enemies in the Thousand-Star City, who could find him? Pure Sun Island. Since the accident of the Thug Academy, the name of the Thug Academy had become a taboo on the Pure Sun Island. At that time, the Faceless Man and the big families fought. In the end, although Old Han won the battle. However, the Thug Academy still became ruins. The big families were still big families, but the Thug Academy had already disappeared. They would settle scores after the fall. The Su family became the family that was vented. Even the residents of the entire Pure Sun Island lost all their financial subsidies. Without permission, no one was allowed to leave the Pure Sun Island. No one even dared to fight in the arena. Most of the people from the Pure Sun Island were killed in the arena. As a result, the Thug Academy became the evil in everyone's heart. The Su family completely declined. The two explorers of the Su family all died inexplicably. Before Patriarch Su died, he even warned Su Yang to live no matter what. Now, the Su family had withered, with less than 100 people left. All their wealth had been plundered. Under the leadership of Su Yang, the former leader of the Su family, which had less than 100 people, returned to being an ordinary family. The reason why Su Yang could live was that the big families had some scruples about their reputation. After all, Su Yang was a very famous person on the Pure Sun Island. Furthermore, as a peak law enforcer, it was impossible for him to have any chance of revenge in the future. However, even so, there were still people who wanted to kill them in the open and in the dark. These people weren't from the big families, but those from the small families. Because those small families had long declined, they had very few resources. Since Su Yang didn't die, he definitely had some of the Su family's resources. At the very least, there must be a lot of cultivation techniques and combat skills. Therefore, in the past 8 years, the Su family had lived a life worse than death. They had to live in fear every day. On this day, on the Pure Sun Island, Su Yang was leading some disciples of the family to practice combat skills. They could only absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Although it was slow, the family no longer had any resources. Su Yang shouted, "Come, don't slack off. The Thousand-Star City has plenty of spiritual energy. You can still grow without resources. In the future, once you have the chance, think of a way to leave the Pure Sun Island." Someone said weakly, "Family head, will someone really come to save us?" Su Yang nodded and said with certainty, "Yes. Su Sanqian, Su Daiji. You all know them. They will definitely come back." Most of those youths back then had grown up. They really wanted to say, "The Thug Academy is gone. I wonder if Su Sanqian and Su Daiji are dead." "Yo, you want to leave the Pure Sun Island? Your family is the center of the Pure Sun Island. You all deserve to die." Su Yang didn't even need to look to know who had come. This wasn't the first time, but many times. When they saw this person, the remaining 100 or so people of the Su family were all furious. A middle-aged man with a pale face shouted in a low voice, "Zhao Bao Bao, what are you trying to do? You and I were husband and wife back then. Why do you have to force us?" The person who came was the daughter of the Zhao family that the Su family had divorced. Back then, the scene of the divorce was in front of Han Fei and the others, who knew that the Su family's glory would only last a few years before the Thug Academy was defeated again and disappeared from the Thousand-Star City. Even Su Yang himself was a little doubtful. Could they still return? Zhao Bao Bao placed one hand on her waist and pointed angrily at the weak man. "Su Cheng, when you divorced me back then, you should have thought of today's outcome. Also, that old fart Su Laoqing died so early. It's too easy for him. That old fellow deserves to be hacked to pieces." After a series of curses, Zhao Bao Bao was satisfied and said proudly, "Now, as long as you hand over the Su family's cultivation techniques and combat techniques, I'll spare your lives. On account of our past relationship, I'll spare your lives." Su Yang clenched his fists and gritted his teeth. "Zhao Bao Bao, do you dare to kill me? Haha. So what if I kill you? Who do you think will care? Wait for Su Sanqian to come back and save you. If that kid finds out that your Su family can't even protect his mother, do you think he will kill you? Haha. Bastard." Su Yang was enraged and pointed at Zhao Bao Bao. "Evil woman, you deserve to be divorced. There are some things that the heavens are watching. Your Zhao family was unjust first. You will eventually suffer retribution." Whoosh! However, a pillar of light blasted Su Yang thousands of meters away. Cracked! In the blink of an eye, Su Yang vomited blood, and dozens of bones in his body were broken. His eyes widened. Explorer whoosh! An old man broke through the void and looked at Su Yang coldly. "Su Yang, don't refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit. Your Su family will never have a chance to rise again. Hand over the cultivation techniques and combat techniques, and I'll save your lives. Otherwise," just as Su Yang was about to despair, he saw a figure appear in the distance at the end of the road. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Han Fei looked at the elder from the Zhao family indifferently. Otherwise, what are you going to do? Chapter 1499. When he saw Han Fei, Su Yang was stunned. His body immediately froze. He was thinking, why would Han Fei dare to come in such a situation? On the opposite side, the Zhao family explorer frowned slightly and looked at Han Fei with an unfriendly expression. Who are you? You're just a hidden fisher, and you want to meddle in other people's business? Han Fei didn't use his full strength all the way. He had just disguised himself as an ordinary person. Zhao Baobao was terrified. Why would this person appear on the pure Sun Island? That's impossible. After Zhao Baobao was divorced, she had caused a lot of trouble. However, she also knew who Han Fei was. This person was domineering and was a rumored student of the Thug Academy that had been destroyed. Later, all sorts of things proved that Han Fei was extremely terrifying. In front of the Venerables, he killed the elites of the big families and slaughtered the explorers. He was so crazy that she couldn't believe it. Zhao Baobao hurriedly said, Uncle, he is that Han Fei. When the Zhao clan's explorer heard this, his eyelids twitched and he revealed a surprised expression. He couldn't help but look at Zhao Baobao. Are you sure? The Zhao family's third uncle sized up Han Fei again and confirmed that Han Fei was only an intermediate hidden fisher. How could it be Han Fei with such strength? The hundreds of people of the Su family were also dumbfounded. However, their expressions were very strange. There was hatred and hope in their eyes. They hated that the Su family's desolation and the Thug Academy were directly related to this person. They hoped that Han Fei could save them from their misery. The Zhao family's third uncle looked at Han Fei and asked tentatively, Han Fei? Han Fei smiled faintly. Me? It's me. The Zhao family's third uncle was shocked and swept his gaze across the void. No one knew what he was looking at. Han Fei smiled and said, There's no need to look. It's just me. The Zhao family's third uncle thought to himself, Han Fei is the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island now. Why would he appear as an intermediate hidden fisher? If it were Han Fei, would the big families not react? The Zhao family's third uncle sneered. Stop pretending. Do you think you can scare me just because you know some disguise? Tell me, who sent you here? Suddenly, a pressure fell on Han Fei. The Zhao family's third uncle grabbed Han Fei with one hand, wanted to take him down first. In his opinion, this matter was simply impossible. It was illogical and unreasonable. He must be someone in disguise. However, Han Fei stretched out one hand and grabbed in the air casually. With a swish, it sounded like a long knife being drawn out of the scabbard. Including the Zhao family's third uncle, they only heard the sound and didn't see the saber. However, one of his arms flew out of thin air. Immediately after, a terrifying pressure suddenly descended, and the Zhao family's third uncle immediately knelt on the ground. This included Zhao Baobao and some of the attendants behind her. All of them lay flat on the ground. Han Fei chuckled. How dare you attack me after hearing my name? You have guts. The third uncle of the Zhao family was horrified. This is illogical. However, he immediately begged in fear. This lowly one had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Please spare my life. Marshal Han. Swish, swish, swish. The void lines immediately seized the man. This person's vitality was gone, and his eyes were unfocused. In just a few seconds, he lay on the ground, unable to move anymore. Third uncle. Zhao Baobao looked at this scene in horror. Her third uncle, an intermediate explorer. How could he die just like that? It must be a hallucination. Han Fei waved his hand casually, and Zhao Baobao and the others were crushed by the gravity. They bled from their 7 orifices and vomited blood. Her dantian shattered, and her cultivation level disappeared. Han Fei looked at Su Yang and said leisurely, If you want to kill or torture these people, deal with them first. Pack up your things and follow me. Su Yang and the others were shocked. This is Han Fei. An intermediate explorer doesn't even have a right to make Han Fei move his feet. How strong is Han Fei? Su Yang suddenly came back to his senses and immediately said, My lord, We have nothing to pack up. The sickly Su Cheng's face was flushed red as he walked towards Zhao Baobao with his knife. Zhao Baobao was completely dumbfounded. Her third uncle was gone, her cultivation level was gone, and everything was gone. When he saw Su Cheng walk over with his knife, he exclaimed, "Don't kill me, Ah Cheng, don't." Su Cheng gritted his teeth. "You stole my family's wealth and harmed my clansmen. You deserve to die." Su Cheng killed with one slash, leaving no survivors. "Oh, ha ha." After taking a few deep breaths, Su Cheng suddenly laughed and cupped his hands. "Thank you, Mr. Han." Han Fei nodded slightly. Su Sanqian was this guy's son, so he did have to take care of him. A chain of holy light descended, and in an instant, everyone in the Su clan felt warm. Their bodies were like a river that had been dried up for a long time, welcoming a flood. Han Fei said indifferently, "I'm very sorry about the Su family. It should be fine in the future." With that said, Han Fei stretched out his hand and swept Su Yang and the hundreds of people away. The next moment, this group of people appeared at the former entrance of the Su residence. Now, this place had become the Zhao residence's side courtyard. With a sweep of his perception, there were more than 300 people in the residence. The rest of the 300 people were actually cultivating at the Thug Academy side. Su Yang and the others were shocked. They had crossed hundreds of kilometers in an instant. They had actually appeared at their former doorstep. While shocked, they all looked at Han Fei, wanted to see what Han Fei would do. He didn't even raise his hand, but a drop of water flew up beside him. In an instant, the infinite saber art circled the residence. 2 seconds later, the infinity water returned. All kinds of screams came from the residence. For a moment, blood rose into the air, shocking Su Yang and the others. Su Yang's perception wasn't weak, so he naturally knew what was happening in the residence. At this moment, he could only swallow his saliva crazily. Han Fei reached out and grabbed, and the sign of the Zhao residence's side courtyard turned into powder. Han Fei casually tossed it, and a wooden treasure appeared and burned it with spiritual fire. In an instant, a door plate was formed with the words Su Residence written on it. On the lower right corner of the door plate, there were 3 words Han Fei Shu. Han Fei nodded in satisfaction and threw a sea-swallowing seashell to Su Yang. "This is a small compensation." At this moment, Han Fei looked up at the void and smiled disdainfully. "They're here, but they don't dare to show up? What can those incompetent venerables do to me?" When Su Yang and the others didn't know what to say, Han Fei said, "From now on, this is your Su Residence's residence. Who dares to snatch it? Even if you all die, I, Han Fei, will avenge you and wipe out their entire family." Su Yang finally burst into tears. He cupped his fists, bowed deeply, and said firmly, "The Su family thanks Mr. Han Fei. From 8 years ago to today, the Su family has always been on the side of the Thug Academy. It is, and it will be." Han Fei nodded slightly. "Are you interested in accompanying me to kill some people?" Su Yang cupped his fists, his face flushed. "It's my duty," Su Yang shouted. "Su Cheng, take everyone to the residence and clean it up. I'll go with Mr. Han Fei." Su Cheng glanced at those young disciples and gave them a meaningful look. Then, hundreds of people bowed to Han Fei. "Thank you, benefactor, for avenging the Su family." Han Fei smiled and waved his hand, and 1,000 caddies of spiritual spring floated in the air. "It's my duty." With that, Han Fei grabbed Su Yang's arm, cracked the void in front of him, and walked in. Thug Academy. This place had become ruins again, overgrown with weeds, and the former river had become what it used to be. Inside, there were 2 or 3 small fish. However, this place was densely covered with green vines and countless flowers and plants of various colors. Some people were still fighting with the man-eating flowers in the courtyard. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly. It seemed that Luo Xiaobai should have protected the Thug Academy. However, Luo Xiaobai was alone in the Thousand-Star City. Facing so many big families, she couldn't save the Thug Academy's face. Therefore, the Thug Academy had become a place where everyone trampled on and cultivated at will. This couldn't be blamed on Luo Xiaobai. It could only be said that some people wanted the Thug Academy to become like this. They wanted to show the tragedy of the Thug Academy to the world. Han Fei remembered that he had once said that the Thug Academy couldn't be trampled on. Su Yang said, "Sir, the Zhao family controls the Pure Sun Island and occupies the original site of the Thug Academy. The two ancestors of the Su family have already died. There's really nothing we can do." Okay, Han Fei nodded indifferently. At this moment, Han Fei took a step into the air and shouted. His voice covered thousands of kilometers around him. Thousand Star City, the big families, the venerables, and everyone, listen up. Anyone who trespasses the Thug Academy will die. In the Thug Academy, countless people raised their heads and looked at the sky. Someone was speechless. Who is that? He's so arrogant. Someone was shocked. This person is very strong. Everyone, let's go. Clatter at that moment. A rain of knives poured down from the sky. Above the Thug Academy, the disciples of the Zhao family were killed in the blink of an eye. In just 3 seconds, no one survived. Han Fei's voice drifted into Pure Sun Island and even farther away. In the void, Han Fei grinned and said indifferently, "Big families, is anyone dissatisfied? If you are, I'm here now. You can come and argue with me." At that moment, Han Fei knew that many people were looking at him. There were people from the Chu sect, the big families, and the 7 major sections. There were many venerables in these places. With such a big movement on the Pure Sun Island, it was impossible for them not to know. Of course, it was impossible for them not to know what happened on the Cold Moon Island. Obviously, the Chu sect failed to take him down. Now that he had walked out, who else dared to come? They knew very well that if they couldn't kill him, the consequences would be immeasurable. Chapter 1500. Becoming a venerable and not becoming a venerable were two completely different mentalities. Well, to put it another way, having strength and not having strength were two completely different mentalities. When he was an explorer, Han Fei didn't even feel that he had strength because he knew that his enemies were very strong. But now, he was a venerable. The enemy that he once felt was beyond his reach, although he was still no match for him. But the other party could no longer kill him. This feeling was very good. It gave Han Fei enough capital to walk openly on the land of the Thousand Star City, on the Pure Sun Island. Han Fei's words immediately fell into the ears of the residents on the island. When they first heard it, they only felt that it was absurd. However, when they walked out of their homes and heard the voice that shook the entire sky, they all swallowed their saliva. Many people asked in surprise, "Who is this person? Are the people from the Thug Academy back for revenge?" Someone exclaimed, "The Thug Academy still dares to come? Aren't they afraid of causing a war?" Someone patted his chest. "Damn it! Is the Thug Academy going to let us live? The Pure Sun Island has been implicated by them for a long time. Now, it's extremely difficult to even enter and exit the Pure Sun Island." Many people immediately thought of complaining. They weren't familiar with the Thug Academy and only knew that this academy was short-lived on the Pure Sun Island. It appeared once a few decades ago and fought with the big families, but in the end, it lost. It appeared again 7 or 8 years ago and lost again. Yes, seeing that the Thug Academy was in decline, these people thought that they had lost the war. Han Fei stood at the gate of the Thug Academy and listened to all kinds of comments. Han Fei suddenly turned to look at Su Yang. "Has the Pure Sun Island been sealed?" Su Yang nodded. "Ever since the battle 8 years ago, the Pure Sun Island has been regarded as an ominous place. Some people think that the people of the Pure Sun Island have accepted the existence of the Thug Academy. Therefore, they blame the people on the island." A hint of viciousness appeared in Han Fei's eyes. "Who thinks so?" Su Yang shook his head slightly. "I don't know, but the Zhao family should be affiliated with that family." Han Fei asked, "Where is the Zhao family?" Su Yang took a deep breath and said firmly, "Drifting Cloud Island is the closest to Pure Sun Island." After Su Yang said this, Han Fei said indifferently, "The Su family can rest for the time being. Help me take care of the Thug Academy and clean it up. The members of the Su clan can cultivate there and wait for the day I return." Su Yang's heart trembled. It seemed that Han Fei still had to leave. However, this time was different from the past. Han Fei's strength was terrifying. Even an intermediate explorer was crushed to death by him with a single finger. Up until now, the aristocratic families had not come to fight. It seemed like the situation had changed. After saying this, Han Fei stepped tens of meters into the air. With a single step, he disappeared from Su Yang's sight. When he approached the main road of the island, Han Fei's eyes slightly changed, and he opened his hands. Above his head, a vortex of spiritual energy covered nearly 100 meters and swept the wind and clouds for dozens of kilometers. It looked like a whirlpool from the sky to the ground. Under this vortex, clouds and rain seemed to gather. As Han Fei walked past, countless people on the ground looked up at the sky. Many people were terrified and wanted to escape. This momentum was too terrifying. Where did this super expert come from? However, Han Fei's voice echoed over the entire Pure Sun Island. Everyone on the Pure Sun Island, listen up. My name is Han Fei, the Supreme Commander of the Scattered Stars Island, the acting president of the Thug Academy. As soon as these words came out, many people were dumbfounded. They knew about the Thug Academy. Many people actually knew about Han Fei, the acting president. Because when Han Fei came back to rebuild the Thug Academy, it was a huge scene. Unfortunately, that academy didn't last for a year before it attracted a terrifying war. The Thug Academy was destroyed. Originally, in their understanding, they actually didn't have a good impression of the Thug Academy. Because the current situation of the Pure Sun Island was basically thanks to the Thug Academy. However, Han Fei had just mentioned that he was the Supreme Commander of the Scattered Stars Island. That was amazing. The 1,000-star city was different from the 36 towns. The 36 towns used to be isolated, so it was impossible for them to know about the Scattered Stars Island. However, the 1,000-star city was different. People from the 1,000-star city often went to the Scattered Stars Island. Millions of people went in and out of the Scattered Stars Island every time. However, they all heard that it was Xue Shenqi, Marshal Xue. Someone was surprised. The Supreme Commander of the Scattered Stars Island has changed? Someone said in surprise. Young President Han has become the Supreme Commander of the 1,000-star city? That's too ridiculous. Some people who could leave the Pure Sun Island had already heard the news. Hearing the questions of the people around them, they immediately responded. It's said that the Scattered Stars Island is no longer the Scattered Stars Island of the past. A super war broke out between humans and sea creatures. In this war, millions of creatures died. In the Scattered Stars Island, blood flowed like a river. It's said that there's still blood flowing in some places. Han Fei walked at a low altitude step by step, his voice firm and extremely tough. He said, all these years, because of the Thug Academy, you have been blocked in the Pure Sun Island, and most of you can't go out. This matter was indeed caused by the Thug Academy. It's rare for me to come back. How can I let this kind of thing happen again? Han Fei walked along the main road of the Pure Sun Island. So along the way, countless people looked at Han Fei. Patter, patter, walala. Suddenly, people saw that everywhere Han Fei passed, within a kilometer or so, it began to rain heavily. Someone exclaimed, it's spiritual energy. This is a spiritual spring, a man-made spiritual spring. Many adults dragged their children and ran wildly to the street outside the door, shouting as they ran, son, remember, in this spiritual energy tide, you must absorb the power of the spiritual spring. Han Fei's voice continued, announcing to the billions of people on the Pure Sun Island, everyone, let me go to the gate and kill them. Han Fei covered dozens of kilometers with a step, extremely fast. Up in the sky, the rain of spiritual energy sprinkled down, and even a rainbow was summoned out. A child exclaimed, Dad, look, the colorful divine light. That's the great way leading to the sea god. Ow, ow, ow. A group of children chased after him on the road, running wildly and screaming, extremely excited. Han Fei was just going through the motions in front of people. Of course, he couldn't go all over the Pure Sun Island at once. He could only let a small number of people see it, and only some people needed to talk about it and spread it among the crowd. The gate of the Pure Sun Island was full of people at this moment. This was because Han had said that they would be able to leave Pure Sun Island immediately. Many people would believe these words. At the gate, many law enforcers were about to sneak away. Even the big clans didn't know that Han Fei would leave the Pure Sun Island with his people and kill the gatekeeper himself. Now, when they heard Han Fei's voice, it was already too late. Han Fei was almost here. At the gate, many low-level soldiers didn't know about this and only saw many people rushing here. Beep, 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 howls sounded, and many strong masters appeared one after another, shouting, "Everyone retreat. Anyone who trespasses the chain bridge will die. Don't come over. Don't you want to live?" Bam! Just as these people shouted, they saw a spiritual energy vortex above the sky, spinning and flying over. Suddenly, a voice came from above this area. Han Fei's voice sounded. "The gatekeeper must die." Swish, swish, swish. Countless water blades sliced through the air. Many people thought they could block it, so they used all kinds of low-level weapons and even contractual spiritual beasts to block it. Puff, the tens of thousands of knives transformed by the infinity water, swept in all directions like flood dragons out of the sea. Many venerables said, "Okay, come back. There's no need to guard the Pure Sun Island." As soon as they heard the summons of their masters, many people immediately prepared to leave. However, it was all too late. The surroundings had become a sea of knife energy. Some law enforcers saw the huge amount of knife energy, and their momentum was rising crazily. At this moment, the blade purgatory had already begun. Someone exclaimed, "The wind! The wind is full of knife energy. Pay attention to the spiritual energy protective cover." Puff, puff, puff. However, how could the spiritual energy protective cover resist the powerful lethality of Han Fei, a venerable? In just a moment, many people were penetrated by the knife energy and completely died. Some people still had the immortal seal to protect themselves. That thing could protect them for a while. After all, a venerable only had a pair of hands and a brain. This kind of wide-range attack was not particularly strong after all. However, even if Han Fei didn't care about it, the blade purgatory he created didn't stop at all. After a while, someone walked out of the void again, but he only lived for one more breath of time before he was completely killed. There were explorers guarding here. When they found that something was wrong, they had already torn the void and were ready to escape. However, as soon as these people tore the void, they saw that the void crack in front of them turned into the shape of knife energy. Puff! In less than 10 minutes, thousands of gatekeepers on the Pure Sun Island were killed by a round of knife energy ripples and the infinity water. Han Fei's voice continued to ripple in the void. "Everyone on the Pure Sun Island, don't worry. In the future, you can travel boldly without worry. Whoever intercepts you, if I find out, I will kill them all." Han Fei didn't plan to stay on the Pure Sun Island for long. He had already seen many people of the Zhao family fleeing. He quickly tore the void and appeared over the Zhao family in less than 10 minutes. Chapter 1501. Welcome the new Alliance Master. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, boss. The Zhao family had obviously received some kind of notice and was about to flee. However, Han Fei came too fast. How could the guards outside the chain bridge of the Pure Sun Island stop him for a few seconds? When Han Fei arrived, many fishing boats had already begun to take off. Someone shouted, "Come on, let's go. Don't wait for them. Let's go." Hoop! Suddenly, within a radius of 100 kilometers, a gust of wind howled. Countless people were horrified to find that the wind actually became tangible, and dazzling knife lights emerged in the wind. Water mist turned into knives, grass, and would turn into knives, as if everything in the world could be turned into knives. In midair, Han Fei's voice rippled. "Where's the leader of the Zhao family? Come forward." At this time, everyone saw someone coming from the sky, with his hands behind his back, dozens of kilometers in a single step. That aura was enough to make one flustered. On the field, the blade purgatory had just been activated. Anyone above the hidden fisher level would be killed. If Han Fei wanted to establish his prestige in the Thousand-Star City today, he had to be arrogant and crazy for once. "Family leader, help me. Someone's body was cut in half, but he didn't die and was still crying for help. Someone cursed, "Devil, who wants to destroy the Zhao family?" Han Fei chuckled and his voice echoed. "My name is Han Fei. I'm from the Thug Academy on the Pure Sun Island. My lord, please spare the Zhao family. I invaded the Su family and entered the Thug Academy. It was all my fault. Please punish me." An old man flew over. He was only an intermediate explorer, but his hair was already white. Even if he was given a chance, he wouldn't have many years left. Puff! Before the old man could say anything, a knife light swept across the air, and the old man was hacked to death by Han Fei. "Ancestor, bastard, how did the Zhao family offend you? Do you deserve this?" Many people were dumbfounded when they saw this scene and fled in panic. Someone was shocked and angry. Knowing that he couldn't escape, he cursed loudly. Han Fei sneered. "I'll say it again. Master of the Zhao family, come here. You only have 3 seconds. Don't make me come to you." In less than 2 seconds, when Han Fei said this, he saw a fat guy rise into the air. This person was only a junior explorer. There was also an old woman who was an advanced explorer with him. However, the old woman was almost at the end of her life. Her situation was no better than the Su family's. Seeing the two of them, Han Fei shook his head slightly. 3 explorers from a family dare to interfere in the affairs of the Thug Academy and the big families? How bold of you! The Zhao family head panicked, his body trembling as he said, "This Zhao Yu greets Commander Han. Commander Han, the Zhao family has made a grave mistake this time. Please punish them. But this matter, it was all decided by me. Marshal Han, please let the Zhao family's disciples go." He didn't know anything. Han Fei curled his lips. "Bullsh asterisk T, do you think I'm a fool? Such a big matter, and your Zhao family's disciples don't know about it?" The old woman hurriedly said, "Marshal Han, the 2 venerables of the Su family died, not because of the Zhao family. But Zhao Yu and I will pay for it with our lives. The 3 explorers of the Zhao family died here today. Please let the Zhao family go, Marshal Han." Han Fei wasn't in a hurry, and he didn't collect all the blade purgatory. He said lightly, "Which family does the Zhao family belong to?" While speaking, Han Fei looked at the void in the distance and said, "Which big family wants to stand up?" "I, Han Fei, am here. Is there anyone who wants to fight with me?" Hearing Han Fei's casual provocation, Zhao Yu and the old woman of the Zhao family were shocked. Why did Han Fei dare to provoke the big families of the Thousand-Star City so blatantly? The old woman of the Zhao family looked down at her family. More than half of the disciples above the hidden fissure level had died. If it continued, all the strong masters would die. The old woman shouted, "Marshal Han, it's the Sun family. Please let the Zhao family go." Han Fei smiled. "Why didn't you say so earlier? Why did you run? If you didn't run, maybe I wouldn't have taken action." Han Fei's voice spread for thousands of kilometers. "The Zhao family is immoral. Today I, Han Fei, will enforce justice on behalf of heaven and destroy the Zhao family. From now on, the Zhao family will no longer exist on the drifting cloud island." Puff, puff, puff. At that moment, countless blades shone in the sky. Zhao Yu, the old woman of the Zhao family, and the disciples of the Zhao family who were above the law enforcer realm were all killed in an instant. For a time, the whole Zhao family was in tears. Countless people hated Han Fei, but Han Fei didn't care. "Come and take revenge if you can. I'll kill you again." Han Fei reached out, and a big hand reached into the Zhao family's treasury, taking away a large number of resources. Han Fei found that even such a big family that was about to decline still had a lot of resources, such as this spiritual spring, which weighed tens of millions of kilograms. There were all kinds of combat skills, cultivation techniques, weapons, and spiritual fruits. However, except for the spiritual spring and a few materials, Han Fei sprinkled everything else into the wind of the drifting cloud island. At that moment, Han Fei stretched out his hand, and a piece of divine weapon material quickly melted and turned into a megaphone the size of half a man. Han Fei shouted, "The big families are immoral and exploit the people. Today I, Han Fei, will return the ill-gotten gains of the Zhao family to the people of the drifting cloud island. As he spoke, Han Fei grabbed 1,000,000 kilograms of spiritual spring, controlled the water, flew into the sky, and fell like rain. Someone was looking up at the sky when he suddenly saw something falling from the sky. He couldn't help but wonder, what's that? This person rose into the air, reached out, and grabbed something. It was a spiritual fruit in his hand. He gasped and then exclaimed, "Is the Zhao family really gone?" Someone was still waiting to watch the show when he saw a long spear stabbing at him. After quickly dodging, the spear, which was at least a semi-divine weapon, was stabbed into the ground in front of him. Oh my, who is this Han Fei? Why did the Zhao family throw away a huge amount of resources? Someone exclaimed, "I got a heaven-level cultivation technique." Someone laughed. "I got one too, a heaven-level low-quality combat skill." Someone said helplessly, "It's a pity that I only got a demon-level mid-quality combat skill." For a time, the sky was full of people, and many of them were scrambling for them. The Zhao family had been destroyed, and these treasures were ownerless. Whoever got them could keep them. While scrambling for them, someone asked, "Who can tell me who Han Fei is?" Someone responded, "I don't know. I've never heard of this person." Someone shouted, "A bunch of uninformed guys. Have you forgotten that the Scattered Stars Island has become a paradise for adventurers? That Han Fei is the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island, known as Commander Han." "This, are you for real? Oh my god, such a powerful figure wants to destroy the Zhao family. What did the Zhao family do?" "The Zhao family deserves to be destroyed. They try all kinds of tricks every day. They deserve it." Han Fei didn't kill all the remaining people of the Zhao family. He knew that no matter how bad the crowd was, there would always be good people. No matter how good the crowd was, there would always be bad people. Good and bad didn't mean anything in certain situations. Enemies wouldn't care whether you were good or bad. Han Fei was not a good person. Facing such a bad family, even if the whole family was destroyed, he didn't know it anyway. So what? In the cries in the sky, Han Fei raised his hand, and the infinity water appeared. He attracted a river and turned it into a 100-meter-long water dragon. The dragon's body was covered with scales. Looking closely, it seemed to have crossed 100 kilometers in one step and disappeared over the Zhao family. Han Fei hated the Sun family the most and the Chu sect the second. Therefore, when the old woman said that the Zhao family was attached to the Sun family, he was not surprised at all. However, Han Fei didn't want to find trouble with them immediately. It just so happened that he was going to take advantage of today to fight against the entire Thousand Star City. Han Fei put the big muzzled weapon to his mouth and shouted, "All the people in the Thousand Star City, listen to me. All the people in the Thousand Star City, listen to me." At that moment, Han Fei's voice spread throughout the Thousand Star City. Although the sound waves were different, it didn't affect his speech. Han Fei said, "My name is Han Fei, the current Supreme Commander of the Scattered Stars Island and the acting president of the Thug Academy. I have something to say to you. In the Thousand Star City, on various islands, countless people looked up at the sky, listening to the rolling sound waves. For a moment, countless people were talking about it. They were surprised by the Supreme Commander of the Scattered Stars Island and curious about what Han Fei was going to say to them. Han Fei said, "As the Supreme Commander of the Scattered Stars Island for a year, I killed more than 10 venerables and countless sea clans. A year ago, I launched a shocking battle, uprooted the 10,000 Demon Valley, attacked the Sea Demon King Black Killer Snail, killed its clone, and annihilated its henchmen. Of course, this is not my own credit, but the joint credit of the millions of soldiers of the Scattered Stars Island. Today, I'm not boasting, but to tell you a few things." When Han Fei said the first sentence, many people were already moved. In the Thousand Star City, countless people had participated in the war on the Scattered Stars Island, and many people on each island received post-war subsidies. They still regarded themselves as members of the Scattered Stars Island. How could they not be moved when they heard the voice of the Scattered Stars Island? These people all stood up and listened to Han Fei carefully with serious and solemn faces. Han Fei's voice continued to float over. "Now, the Scattered Stars Island has been built into a world for adventurers by me. The Scattered Stars Island has attracted countless people from the Thousand Star City and the 36 towns. There are the best combat skills, endless treasures, and endless secret realms waiting for everyone to explore. First of all, I have to appeal to you. If you want to be strong, you can go to the Scattered Stars Island. You won't be tricked. Han Fei paused and continued the second thing. I'm from the Thug Academy, which used to be the top of the 8 academies in the Thousand Star City. The big families in the Thousand Star City coveted the resources of the Thug Academy and joined hands to destroy it. Therefore, I and the big families in the Thousand Star City will fight to the death. In the future, I will wipe out the big families in the Thousand Star City. I will return to the world a fair and righteous world without exploitation or oppression. Today, I ask the billions of people in the Thousand Star City to be my witness. When I, Han Fei, ascend to the Thousand Star City, it will be the time when the big families perish. The 4th chapter, Asking for Votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 1502. Han Fei's voice echoed in the sky above the Thousand Star City. As if it had a huge magic power, countless people stopped to watch. Han Fei was not in a hurry. He would be able to leave the Truman sect smoothly. In the vast sea of people of the Thousand Star City, no one would be able to find him unless someone had a treasure like the Multitude Navigator. While talking, Han Fei waited to see if anyone else wanted to take action. In the end, after talking for a long time, there were only people watching and no one made a move. Standing in the sky, Han Fei's voice echoed. The Sea clans want to plot against the human race, and the big clans also want to plot against the human race. With internal and external troubles, I, Han Fei, swear by the great Tao, I will kill the sea demons first and then destroy the big clans. In this chaotic world, I will punish injustice and liberate mankind. I want the Thousand Star City, the 36 towns, and the Scattered Stars Island. No exploitation, no internal strife, no bullying. Everyone is free, and everyone can go to sea freely, hunt freely, and grow freely. After a long time, Han Fei stopped talking. The people of the Thousand Star City were excited, and many people were thrilled. Someone exclaimed, Han Fei, is this the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island? How domineering. If he can wipe out the big clans, I will believe in him forever. Someone's body trembled. Although I don't know this person, I will remember him from now on. A man named Han Fei, a school named the Thug Academy, and the entire Scattered Stars Island are all enemies of the major clans. All right, I won't hesitate to annihilate the great clans. Someone murmured in his heart, Han Fei, Han Fei. In the Thousand Star City, if they didn't go to the Scattered Stars Island, they could only go to the Thousand Star Proving Ground, the 3 Holy Lands, and the arena to cultivate. The spiritual energy in the Thousand Star City was quite rich. Training in the arena and occasionally spending some money to go to the Thousand Star Proving Ground was also a way of life. However, this method was completely different from the 36 towns and the Scattered Stars Island. Perhaps the people of the Thousand Star City were quite strong, but this was only because they had a high foundation and had generally learned better things than the people of the 36 towns, so they were strong. In a real battle of life and death, if one was not a heaven's favorite, who would dare to say that they could defeat the people from the 36 towns? And now, although the Scattered Stars Island was open, the number of people who could go there every day was limited. After all, there weren't many teleportation arrays. Even the queue was several years late. Therefore, the big clans of the Thousand Star City just watched coldly and didn't seem very worried. Scattered Stars Island? It was just a small island. How many people could it hold? As long as the aristocratic families controlled the entrances and exits of the Thousand Star City, how many people could go out? If the Scattered Stars Island cut off the resources of the Thousand Star City, the Thousand Star City would also cut off the flow of such people. However, in Han Fei's mind, it was not like this. The Scattered Stars Island was expanding, and he didn't need to care about those big clans at all. It could even be said that those who took the initiative to go to the Scattered Stars Island had to be strictly screened. Many people wanted to go, but they couldn't. The large races wanted to stop them. but there was no point in intercepting them. After all, Han Fei could still get people from the 36 towns. Although the average strength of the people in the 36 towns was not as good as that of the Thousand Star City. However, the Scattered Stars Island was no longer plagued by sea demons, and people didn't have to live in fear every day. Therefore, even if the people from the 36 towns were weak, it was not a big deal. Their starting point was low, but they could be groomed. At this moment, Han Fei finished his speech and flew to the inner circle of the Thousand Star City. Along the way, they were brazen and brazen. Long saber dragons stretched across the sky. Han Fei went straight to the Sun family, not disguising himself at all. Today, he had to fight them no matter what. He wanted to show everyone in the Thousand Star City that he was a man of his word. Han Fei's recklessness dumbfounded Ren Tianfen in the void. Is this guy so stupid? Just like that, he went to deal with the Sun family? If he didn't teach the Sun family a lesson, he would lose face. The Three-Light Island was one of the three major islands located on the periphery of the Three Holy Lands. On this island, there were three major families, namely the Sun family, the Yang family, and the Mo family. Among these three families, the Sun family was shrewd, the Yang family was well-developed, and the Mo family was led by women. They were all major families in the Thousand Star City. One of the Sun family's patriarchs died, but Han Fei was also tricked by his son Xiao Tian, one of the three ancestors of the Sun family. In the battle that Tang Yin participated in a year ago, son Xiao Tian even angered Peaceful. In fact, Peaceful was also watching at this moment. Others couldn't come to the Thousand Star City, but she was different. Not only could she come, but she could also enjoy delicious food and drinks all the way. At this moment, seeing how arrogant Han Fei was, Peaceful shook her head and said to Han Fei in the black fog, "Are you crazy? How dare you rush to the enemy's home alone?" Han Fei picked up the fish head meat in the big pot in front of him and said, "Anyway, you can't kill me. It feels weird. In this state, I don't feel as good as before when I eat." Peaceful snorted, "Then don't eat it. I'll eat it alone." Next to the two of them, there was another person sitting upright. It was Fairy Huiyu, who had helped Han Fei fight on the Scattered Stars Island. And at this moment, Han Fei was in the Sea Cloud Tower. Fairy Huiyu watched the fish head fly up automatically and felt very uncomfortable. Han Fei was sitting next to her, but she couldn't feel it at all if he didn't do it on purpose. She said, "Han Fei, do you want to send the 5 disciples of the Thug Academy back or keep them in the Waterwood Sky?" Han Fei shrugged. "I didn't see them in the Waterwood Sky. Send them back. The Scattered Stars Island is no longer what it used to be. They have been training in the Waterwood Sky for a long time. Now it's time to go back to the Yin Yang Heaven to train." Han Fei already knew that the Sea Cloud Tower came from the Waterwood Sky. When Han Fei looked for Peaceful, and the direction of the nautical panorama pointed to the Sea Cloud Tower, there was no need to hide this matter. At this moment, Han Fei simply put down his chopsticks. On the Three-Light Island, the people of the three families had already appeared. Han Fei rode the dragon and traveled ostentatiously under the witness of countless people. The winding body of the dragon under him and the sound of flying daggers never stopped. When he arrived at the Three-Light Island, there were already 4 venerables waiting for Han Fei. A venerable of the Yang family looked at him unkindly. "Han Fei, are you going to fight us now?" Han Fei glanced at the brawny man contemptuously. "Yang Kuan is dead. Who are you? Not a single one of your aristocratic families is trustworthy. You said that there are no venerables in your family. Now one is dead, and another one is coming." The brawny man with a giant axe was furious. "Han Fei, are you provoking us?" Han Fei raised the loudspeaker and shouted, "I am provoking you. What can you do about it? You mother of ****, shut the ****CK up. Otherwise, I will destroy the Yang family first, and then the Sun family. Son of ****TCH, why are you so arrogant all day long? Is your head hit by an ironhead fish?" The venerable of the Yang family was about to get angry, but when he saw the venerable of the Mo family looking at him, he immediately swallowed his words. Yes, Han Fei was a guy who broke into the Chu sect alone, and the point was that he came out. After coming out, he still dared to stay here? In that case, The one who had just arrived must be his doppelganger. Kill a clone? It was meaningless to the big families. On the contrary, if they anger Han Fei, would they let him break into their families? The consequences would be unimaginable. Humph! The venerable of the Yang family snorted heavily, but in the end, he didn't say a word. Two people came out of the Sun family. One was Sun Xiaotian, and the other was Sun Baixing. Sure enough, this Sun Baixing didn't die. It seemed that during the battle on the Scattered Stars Island, the two of them had swapped places at some point. Han Fei ignored the Yang family and the Mo family and went straight to the Sun family's camp. In the Yang family, Yang Diu swallowed hard and said to Yang Nanchi via voice transmission, "Sister Nanchi, I think we have to find a smart family to marry in the future." Fortunately, the ancestral patriarch didn't attack us, or we would have been defeated too. Yang Nanchi rolled her eyes at Yang Diu. Defeated? Han Fei won't attack us. At this time, if he attacks us again, it will be bullying the weak. In particular, I am the only opponent who can compete with him. He will definitely wait for me to grow up before dealing with us. Yang Diu couldn't help but open his mouth. F***, what's wrong with you? Han Fei is right. You've already been hit by an ironhead fish. Let's not talk about whether you're trying to flatter yourself. If you really have the talent to become a king, the first person to be killed would be you. How can you grow up? As Han Fei's had been hit by an ironhead fish, on the Three-Light Island, countless people raised their heads and looked up, and many people had already run far away. If there was a battle between venerables, ordinary people like them could be crushed by any shockwave. Han Fei stepped directly over the Sun family, raised his chin at Sun Xiaotian, and said, "Sun Xiaotian, right? Today, I'm here to fight with you. Let me see how powerful an advanced venerable is." Sun Xiaotian narrowed his eyes slightly. Han Fei, you have just entered the venerable realm. Are you sure you want to fight with me? You should know that today, you can't touch the Sun family no matter what. As the saying went, without the lips, the teeth would be cold. No matter how stupid the Yang family and the Mo family were, they would understand this truth. Therefore, even if he was no match for them, someone would come to save him. Even if the Yang family and the Mo family couldn't save him, the Chu sect and other clans would come to save him. Anyway, he wouldn't die. Han Fei smiled. Don't get me wrong. I came here today to fight you one-on-one and let me feel the power of an advanced venerable. As for the Sun family, don't worry, you can't run away. I will deal with the big families of the Thousand Star City one by one. The two of them did not bother to conceal their conversation. Their voices were loud and clear, and countless people heard them. Many ordinary people gasped. Han Fei had become a venerable? The Sun family still had an advanced venerable? Han Fei had just become a venerable, and he was going to challenge them? How could ordinary people know anything else? They only knew that Han Fei was ruthless and arrogant. Although there were many unreasonable points in this provocation, they didn't care. Sun Xiaotian knew that after he failed to kill Han Fei with a sneak attack, he would inevitably attract revenge. However, he didn't expect that Han Fei would come so quickly, and in this situation, he didn't want to fight Han Fei. In his opinion, this was not Han Fei's real body at all, but just a clone. Even if he won, so what? However, Han Fei invited him to fight on the spot. Hundreds of millions of people were watching. How could he not fight? Sun Xiaotian shouted, "Come and fight." Chapter 1503. Han Fei's momentum today was quite big. He slaughtered a small family. He gave a stirring speech. He came to challenge the high-level venerable of the Sun family. Among them, slaughtering a small family was actually not a big deal. 8 years ago, the number of families that were slaughtered was no less than a dozen. Ren Tianfei had slain quite a few of them on his own. However, none of their actions were as bold and powerful as Han Fei's. After all, that kind of battle was a life-and-death battle, and both sides sent a lot of forces. It was a kind of group battle. In the venerable battle, the battles between venerables all took place in the void. No one was as ostentatious as Han Fei. Therefore, ordinary people couldn't see all the battles. Only the strong could. This time, no one stopped Han Fei's challenge. What happened to the Chu sect? The moment the million clansmen left the Cold Moon sect, everyone knew. Millions of people had left, and they were scattered all over the place. How long would it take for the news to spread? Now, all the big clans knew that Han Fei had the ability to hunt other people's spiritual beasts. This also meant that Han Fei could hunt directly or indirectly in the Soul Sea. This matter in itself was terrifying enough. No one in the entire Thousand-Star City had ever solved the mystery of the Soul Sea. Did Han Fei have the ability to do so? Not only that, Han Fei, venerable, sneaked into the Chu sect. Old Monster Chu and Sect King Chu activated the Mountain Protecting Array and searched for Han Fei for half a month, but they didn't even catch a shadow of him. In the end, they were forced to release Han Fei. It could be said that the Chu sect had lost all its face. Swish! The void opened, and Han Fei and Sun Xiaotian stepped into the void one after another. Of course, Sun Xiaotian wouldn't treat Han Fei as an ordinary character. Which ordinary character could kill a demi-king when he was only a demi-venerable? Which junior venerable could escape the pursuit of a demi-king several times? Which venerable could sneak into the Chu sect and crazily hunt other people's spiritual beasts? Han Fei could do all these. Therefore, Sun Xiaotian would show his full strength. He would even treat Han Fei as a peak-level venerable. After all, he also knew that if Han Fei could kill him today, he would never hold back. On the contrary, it was impossible for him to kill Han Fei today. This was clearly his home ground, but he was being restricted everywhere. This was what made him uncomfortable. As soon as he entered the void, Sun Xiaotian stretched out his hand, and a supreme-grade divine weapon appeared in his hand. Swish, swish, swish. With the sword in hand, 100 swords flew across the sky, forming a huge formation. This was the Immortals' slaying formation of his Sun family. Han Fei had recognized at the moment Sun Xiaotian made his move. Back when he was enemies with Sun Mu, he had come into contact with the Immortals' slaying formation many times. However, the Immortals' slaying formation that Sun Mu used and the one that Sun Xiaotian used were on two completely different levels. The first strike was still the Immortal slaying sword Qi. In Sun Xiaotian's hand, the moment the long sword appeared in his hand, the Immortal slaying sword Qi covered a radius of hundreds of miles, forming a sword Qi domain. Han Fei didn't stop him. He secretly activated the Great Path, and his strength had already risen. At least in terms of power, Han Fei was already comparable to an advanced venerable. However, in terms of the strength of his divine soul, he was definitely inferior. According to Ren Tianfen's theory, Ren Tianfen had lived longer than you, cultivated longer than you, and his realm was higher than yours. How could his divine soul be weaker than yours? Han Fei had to admit that. At least, he admitted this when he hadn't made up for the loss of his divine soul. However, Han Fei didn't panic. After all, he had the demon purification pot. Did they want to hurt his divine soul? Unless they had extremely special means, how could they hurt his divine soul? That time in the Ideal Palace was completely an accident. At that time, he was running the Supreme Yin-Yang Wheel, and the weapon Chu Qingyan got was also very special, which was unique to the Ideal Palace. The most important thing was that it was a soul that could be in the Ideal Palace. With a thought in Han Fei's mind, in the void, in the Immortals slaying sword Qi's formation, the blade Purgatory also rolled up, and the knife light and sword Qi scattered into a ball in an instant. Unlike Sun Xiaotian's Immortals slaying sword Qi, Han Fei's blade Purgatory could cause cracks in the void. Its strength completely crushed the Immortals slaying sword Qi. If a venerable divine quality combat skill couldn't even do this, how could it be called a venerable divine quality combat skill? Sun Xiaotian had obviously realized this as well. In fact, all the other venerables who were watching the battle had realized this as well. The venerable of the Yang family, who was closest to him, said in surprise, "What kind of combat skill is Han Fei using? It can even cause cracks in the void?" The venerable of the Mo family said, "The key is not whether he can cause cracks in the void, but that this combat skill is too strong. In group battles, the Immortal slaying formation is the strongest group combat skill we know. However, Han Fei's combat skill is even stronger than the Immortal's slaying formation. We can only wait and see. Sun Xiaotian had already fallen behind in the first attack. Sun Xiaotian's second attack, Immortal Guides the Way, had already been launched. Four rays of red light came at Han Fei from four directions. The corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly, and he stood still. The void cracks overlapped and spread out from Han Fei's body. The four rays of red light couldn't escape the devouring of the void at all, and were directly swallowed up. It could be said that using the void cracks was also a kind of spatial combat skill, which made all Sun Xiaotian's moves fall into a different space. If Sun Xiaotian's attack power wasn't enough to crush these void cracks, how could his attack get close to Han Fei? At this moment, Han Fei said calmly, I used to tell Sun Mu of the Sun family that it's best to use your ultimate move at the beginning of a fight. But it seems that you are really a family. You just don't know how to use it. Why do you have to do it step by step to show me the power of your Immortal's slaying formation? Haha, what's that to show off? Is it really that powerful? Looking at the third move of the Immortal's slaying formation, red light was everywhere, and the void was covered with red lines. Each of them was extremely fast. Han Fei knew that the blade Purgatory couldn't stop it anymore. In front of him, the infinity water directly turned into thousands of flying knives and surrounded Han Fei like an azure dragon, protecting Han Fei in it. Clang, 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 clang. Each of the beams of red light could tear the void apart, but they couldn't tear apart the azure dragon around Han Fei. The infinity water grew with Han Fei's growth. When Han Fei became a venerable, the nature of the infinity water had almost become a high-quality divine weapon. Even if he let these sword currents hit him, could it break it? When Sun Xiaotian besieged Han Fei like this, endless space cracks also swept towards Sun Xiaotian at the same time. Sun Xiaotian had a main sword in his hand, which surrounded him and could also cut open these void cracks. Han Fei curled up the corners of his mouth in disdain. He suddenly lifted his feet and walked towards Sun Xiaotian, covering dozens of kilometers with each step. Swish! Han Fei stretched out his hand and grabbed in the void, pulling out a void crack 100 meters long, and slashed at Sun Xiaotian. Sword Aura Shield, Dragon Snake Retreat. Sword Aura condensed around Sun Xiaotian. 108 swords returned, and the 100 swords turned into one, displaying the 10,000 swords as one. But Han Fei continued to stretch out his hand and grab at the void. Swish! 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 Huge space cracks appeared one after another. Who would have thought that Han Fei could actually turn the space cracks into a long knife in his hand, pull them out of the void, and kill his way out? In the Taishu Academy, many elders sighed. What kind of knife technique is Han Fei using? Why does it look a bit like the Void Sword Qi, the most unique technique of the Taishu Academy? Someone shook his head slightly. It seems different. Han Fei slashed in the void, which seemed simple, but in fact, every time he attacked, he needed to be fast, accurate, and ruthless. And it consumed a lot of energy. However, the power of this knife is really hard to resist. Someone sighed. What a powerful knife technique. The people of the Heavenly Sword Sect will probably have a headache watching this. Like the Taishu Academy, the Heavenly Sword Sect was better at playing with swords than the Taishu Academy. In the Heavenly Sword Sect, ordinary people couldn't play with swords because they had to find their own path and get the sword in their heart first. At this moment, the Master of the Heavenly Sword and Mu Tianfang were also shocked to see Han Fei's terrifying knife light. The Master of the Heavenly Sword said lightly, Han Fei is just forcing himself to use the knife. If he finds the knife's soul and the knife in his heart, Sun Xiaotian will be no match for him. Mu Tianfang said, even so, it's still very powerful. At least I can't compete with this kind of knife technique. The Master of the Heavenly Sword nodded. You will find it. This boy's comprehension ability is probably extremely high. In the void, the battle was thrilling. Under the knife light and sword shadows, it was really a piece of cake to cut mountains and split seas. If such an attack were to appear on Three Light Island, it would not take long for the island to be reduced to ruins. Therefore, the battle of the strong was always in the void. At this moment, the battle of divine command was over. Sun Xiaotian blocked Han Fei's knife-drawing technique, with the sky-sealing sword tied. At the same time, he was shocked to find that Han Fei was too talented. If he had a chance to choose again, he really didn't want to be an enemy of a guy like Han Fei. Sun Xiaotian shouted in a low voice, 108 immortal slaying swords. At this time, the long sword in Sun Xiaotian's hand had also joined the battle. The sword entered the void, and Sun Xiaotian directly attacked, carrying the power of the condensed immortal slaying sword array. A terrifying sword wave roared towards Han Fei. Under the 108 sword shadows, the void seemed to be cut open. What Han Fei sensed was a weird technique that could cut into the soul. Han Fei twisted his body and felt that he had been slashed by a sword, which made his head hurt. If this continued, his soul would definitely be greatly damaged. With a thought from Han Fei, the infinity water turned into 108 small dragons, each of which attacked a sword. Han Fei smiled grimly. Interesting. Although Sun Mu also knows this sword technique, it's not powerful. Boom, boom, boom. The infinity water suddenly exploded, and most of the 108 swords were blown up in the explosion. In terms of grade, they were now not as good as the infinity water. Han Fei looked at Sun Xiaotian with a smile. What else can you do? I'm running out of patience. After that, Han Fei roared, and the 100 beasts devoured soul appeared. It was also a soul attack, but different from the immortal slaying swords. This kind of power directly acted on Sun Xiaotian's sea of consciousness. Immortal slaying stab. Swish. Puff. Han Fei and Sun Xiaotian both vomited blood. Both of them seemed to be seriously injured. Han Fei failed to block the last stab. Sun Xiaotian seemed to have forcibly endured the soul attack in his mind in exchange for this opportunity. A big hole was pierced through Han Fei's chest, but Han Fei didn't care at all. Instead, he grinned and smashed the immortal slaying array with a punch. When Han Fei wanted to continue to attack Sun Xiaotian, he saw several venerable realm cultivators coming to Sun Xiaotian's side. Swish! Han Fei tore the void and glanced at the 3 light island. Ha! A big family is just SOSO. Today, you outnumber me, so I'll spare your life. In the future, I, Han Fei, will take your lives one by one. Chapter 1504. BM. Han Fei's black fog body disappeared in front of everyone as if it had never appeared. Or, in an unknown way, Han Fei had gone to a place that no one knew. Sea Cloud Tower. Han Fei's body shook, and the Gemini divine body became one. Then he picked up the chopsticks again, picked up a large piece of fish, and stuffed it into his mouth. Fairy Huiyue was surprised. What kind of method did Han Fei use? He had the ability to clone himself. They were thousands of kilometers apart, but in the blink of an eye, they merged together. More importantly, even Peaceful was dumbfounded. Han Fei almost defeated Sun Xiaotian with only one clone. Wasn't the progress of his strength a bit too fast? In fact, the two of them didn't know that Han Fei's use of power had reached the limit. The Gemini divine technique couldn't hold on any longer. The battle from beginning to end only took more than 5 minutes. Han Fei found that when the Great Path was activated, the more pressure the Gemini divine technique bore. After 5 minutes, he was almost at his limit. However, Han Fei secretly smiled. I'm indeed strong enough. I can't be expected to cross a major realm and become comparable to a half-king in just 1 year. Can I? After a hearty meal, Han Fei said, Miss Huiyue, there should be a direct way to the Scattered Stars Island in the Sea Cloud Tower, right? Although Han Fei had a lot of means to return to the Scattered Stars Island through the normal way, it was not absolutely safe after all. However, it was not absolutely safe. Who knew if old Monster Chu and the others would suddenly make a move? Would they find any clues? It was convenient and fast to take the road to the Sea Cloud Tower. Why should he fight with the big families? Fairy Huiyue nodded slightly. Of course. Please come with me. After a while, Han Fei and Peaceful stood in a teleportation array inside a mountain, and with a swish, they disappeared from the Thousand Star City. The spatial location of the Thousand-Star City and the 36 towns was different, which was why the 36 towns couldn't fly to the Thousand-Star City. The teleportation array only broke the film of this layer of space, allowing them to cross this barrier. While the place where the two appeared was above the sea. The sea wind was quite strong, and the waves were rolling. This place should be some distance from the Scattered Stars Island. When there were only the two of them left, Peaceful said, "Have you been to the Enyang Palace? How was it? Was it fun?" Han Fei pursed his lips and looked at her strangely. "Fun? I almost lost my life." Peaceful stuck out her tongue and thought, "That's right. Enyang Sky has been in chaos for a long time. Enyang Fairy Palace will not be easy to enter." On Scattered Stars Island, the project of reclaiming land from the sea was still in full swing. Previously, Han Fei's original plan was to temporarily expand the Scattered Stars Island to 1,000 kilometers. Even though it was only 1,000 miles, it was going to fill up 1,000 miles of the sea. Moreover, how could an ordinary person do such a job? Only the strong could reclaim the sea. Basically, after the land was filled up, there were still countless people who accepted missions from the mission hall and went to new lands in all directions to kill sea creatures. Because they were all dredged up from the sea, many marine creatures would drill into them. A year had passed, and this project had probably just completed the 1,000-kilometer expansion that Han Fei had previously proposed. Now, the Scattered Stars Island was about 3,000 kilometers long and less than 4,000 kilometers wide. The surface area was much larger than before. Now, countless people from the 36 towns were flocking to the Scattered Stars Island, not to mention the Thousand-Star City. Anyone who came to the Scattered Stars Island had to pray and worship the sea god every day. As a result, the population of the Scattered Stars Island began to skyrocket at a terrifying speed. From less than 10 million at the beginning, there were now at least 30 million people on the island. After all, it had only been a year since Han Fei announced the establishment of the City of Justice. It could be said that every day, tens of thousands of people came to the Scattered Stars Island from the 36 towns and the Thousand-Star City. Among them, most of them were from the 36 towns. The rapid rise in population also led to the work of reclaiming land from the sea. After Xue Shenqi's secret control, now the high-level think tank of the City of Justice had preliminarily set the expansion task of the Scattered Stars Island to 5,000 kilometers. It was estimated that the maximum population that could be accommodated was 200 million people. The population growth rate couldn't be too fast, because this still needed the support of various supporting facilities, as well as the planning and operation of the city. The expansion of various departments all took time. Over the past year, the various departments were also in full swing and busy. Although the former Skeleton Shore was still called the Skeleton Shore at this moment, it extended out too much. This area alone had expanded to more than 500 kilometers of sea area. Countless newcomers, who were only dangling fishers, under the leadership of hanging fishers, hunted creatures such as king worms and flathead big-eyed crabs on the Skeleton Shore. The entire coastline was filled with battles. Those marine creatures, which are the lowest level in the eyes of the garrison of the Scattered Stars Island, could now scare countless newcomers and make them fight with all their might. Many of the former garrison soldiers were now arranged to take care of the newcomers, and they were all cursing. Someone shouted, "Attack! Spirit Gatherer, what are you doing? Do you want to kill your teammates if you don't have enough spiritual energy?" Someone scolded angrily, "Soul Warrior, why don't you dare to attack? It's just a king worm. Why the F***CK are you scared? Coward, I'll give you 10 seconds to finish the battle quickly." This kind of scene could be seen everywhere. Han Fei's perception swept across and found that people were fighting on the entire expanded land of the Scattered Stars Island. There seemed to be no end to these sea creatures that could dig holes. After a batch was killed, another batch appeared. Inside and outside the City of Justice, many people were entering and exiting, and the population was endless. Some were hunting, some were going out to sea, some were doing business, some were treasure hunting, and some were doing tasks. What Han Fei saw was a flourishing scene. As soon as Peaceful came back, she had already disappeared. She had already mixed into the crowd. Because there were more people cooking. The population of the Scattered Stars Island soared, and the special styles and cuisines of the 36 towns could almost be seen here. They were completely mixed together. At the same time, in the City of Justice, a new exquisite treasure tower appeared. Seeing this, Han Fei sneered. They probably didn't have time to run away, right? The news from the higher-ups shouldn't have been delivered yet. Zhang Teng was busy supervising the Scattered Stars Island. There were simply too many people who had come over in the past year. Zhang Teng's frank and straightforward character was very popular. The supervisor department was also recruiting people every day, but there were not enough people every day. As for the supervisory department of the Scattered Stars 7 units, they had even fewer people. After all, it was extremely difficult to enter the Scattered Stars 7 units. At this moment, the desks of each of the 2 supervisory departments were full of materials, and they were very busy. Zhang Teng was reading a resource document. Suddenly, a voice appeared in his mind. Zhang Teng, immediately contact the Scattered Stars 5 units and take down the exquisite treasure tower. That's the property of the Chu sect. Swish! With a whoosh, Zhang Teng jumped up from his chair and said with a flushed face, "Yes, Marshal Han." Zhang Teng immediately felt uncomfortable. He glanced at a young hidden fisher in his department. With a bang, he slapped the hidden fisher directly into the wall. Guards immediately detained Hu Chong in the Scattered Stars prison. Hu Chong, who was kicked away by Zhang Teng, was dumbfounded at this moment. "My lord, what did I do wrong?" Next to him, many people were also stunned. Zhang Teng's sudden attack was quite scary. Zhang Teng shouted, "You told me about the construction of the exquisite treasure tower several times in a row. Son of AB *TCH. If that's the property of the Chu sect, then who are you?" Hiss. Many people gasped. Who could work in the supervisory department didn't know the bad relationship between Han Fei and the big families in the Thousand Star City. If such a famous place as the exquisite treasure tower was the property of the Chu sect, then they could catch many of them. Because, on the surface, they were from the Million Gold Town, one of the 36 towns. Immediately, someone detained Hu Chong. "Boss, what should we do now?" Zhang Teng's mind raced. Pause everything else, and immediately keep an eye on everyone in the exquisite treasure tower. Within 1 hour, I want to know the top customers of the exquisite treasure tower and the refer of the Million Gold Town. After that, Zhang Teng looked at one of his subordinates and secretly said, "Immediately inform the Secret Service to prepare to go to the Million Gold Town. We must eliminate the spies of the Chu sect once and for all." Half a day later, the powerful surveillance system of the Scattered Stars Island showed its powerful operational ability. The supervisory department, together with the Scattered Stars 5 units and the law enforcement team, led by an inspector, instantly arrested 326 spies of the Chu sect. These spies might have been just hidden chess pieces and generally wouldn't be used. However, their existence would eventually become a threat. These 326 people were only the number of people arrested on the Scattered Stars Island. Who knew how many spies of the Million Gold Town hadn't been caught? At this moment, Zhang Teng and the leader of the Scattered Stars 5 units were standing at the gate of the general's mansion. Their dereliction of duty was a great dereliction of duty. Hundreds of spies blatantly lurked right under their noses, but they didn't even notice it. And Han Fei told them in person. Zhang Teng said, "Please forgive me for my negligence, General Han." At this moment, Han Fei, Star Turtle, and Xue Shenqi were discussing matters in the general's mansion. Hearing Zhang Teng's arrival, they knew that the matter had been settled. Xue Shenqi said lightly, "Go ahead. There's still a lot of things to be done in the City of Justice. There's still a lot of things that need your attention." Star Turtle also quickly said, "Since you're back, I'll return the position of the Supreme Commander to you. If there's anything, you can deal with it yourself." Han Fei said with a smile, "Senior Star Turtle, why are you being so modest? Maybe I'll have to trouble you in the future." Star Turtle's eyelids twitched. "Trouble? I hate trouble the most." After Star Turtle and Xue Shenqi left, Han Fei said, "Come in." As soon as Zhang Teng and the leader of the Scattered Stars 5 units entered the general's mansion, they immediately asked for their punishment. Han Fei said with a smile, "The City of Justice is developing too fast. The Scattered Stars Island today is completely different from the Scattered Stars Island a year ago. With the rapid increase in population, it's inevitable that some people will slip through the net. What have you done? Come on, sit down." Zhang Tong was taken aback by Han Fei's enthusiasm. This was the first time that Han Fei had made an official appearance in the past year, wasn't it? Han Fei said, "As it happens, I have something to tell everyone. I have to convene a meeting Happy Mid-Autumn Festival tomorrow in advance. Remember to leave your monthly votes for me." Mwah. End of this chapter. Chapter 1505. After returning to the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei didn't plan to stay there for long. In Han Fei's eyes, the position of the Supreme Commander of the Scattered Stars Island was actually not very important. After all, he had managed the real City of Justice, whose territory was far more vast than that of the Thousand Star City. Therefore, after taking over the Scattered Stars Island, Han Fei was very good at managing the city. After Han Fei established the City of Justice, almost everyone on the Scattered Stars Island was stunned by what he did. Everyone, including Shueishenqi, was surprised. Could it be that the talent of managing a city was also innate? After all, Han Fei had no management experience at all before and only knew how to rob all day long. How could Shueishenqi not know this? Not to mention Shueishenqi, how many senior officials on the Scattered Stars Island didn't know this? Therefore, at the beginning, many people held a rather suspicious attitude about Han Fei. However, a year later, when the expanded City of Justice was placed in front of everyone, no one said anything. Many people who had doubted Han Fei, if they were not hostile forces, often raised their thumbs and praised Han Fei, feeling proud from the bottom of their hearts. At this time, after Han Fei returned, he immediately summoned hundreds of inspectors and the heads of the major departments on the Scattered Stars Island for a meeting in the general's mansion. These people were also very convinced of Han Fei. At this moment, there were hundreds of people sitting in the hall. Han Fei stood in front of the sea map with his back to them and looked up at the sea map. Everyone was still puzzled. Could it be that the commander-in-chief had another idea? After a long time, Han Fei said, "Everyone, why can't the Scattered Stars Island draw the sea map of the entire sea area?" After waiting for a few seconds, a middle-aged man said, "General Han, the sea area is so vast. How can we really draw it? Previously, it was only about 2 million kilometers. Because our battle with the sea demons is only within this range after all. I'm afraid that it's beyond our reach if it's further." Han Fei looked back at the person who spoke and recalled. The inspector of the pioneer group, Qin Muji. The middle-aged man nodded with a smile and thought to himself, "Do you know me, General Han?" Han Fei hummed and said, "Haven't the pioneer groups been to further places? For example, 5 million miles away? Or have you ever been to the level 3 fishery and the 36 towns in the unknown place?" Qin Muji was briefly stunned. Seeing that Han Fei was discussing this topic openly, he immediately said, "The 36 towns are about 2 million kilometers east of the Scattered Stars Island, which is also a place we guard. The existence of the level 3 fishery is actually a protection for the 36 towns. It completely blocks the 36 towns behind." Han Fei smiled and said, "Look, the sea is only so big. No matter how unknown the unknown lands were, it was only relative, because in the past, no ordinary person could cross millions of miles of sea. There's simply too many powerful beings along the way." While talking, Han Fei looked at these people and said, "You are all the backbone members of the Scattered Stars Island. Many of you should know the secrets of this sea area, right?" Hearing Han Fei's words, Qin Muji and the others all showed subtle expressions. Of course, some people were dumbfounded and thought, "Is there any big secret in this sea area?" Han Fei didn't wait for them to ask, but said straightforwardly, "This sea area is 8 million kilometers wide and is surrounded by a huge seal. That is to say, the space we rely on to survive is only 8 million kilometers." Hearing this, many people were shocked. They had never heard of this secret before. However, they soon understood it from the expressions of the people around them and even their friends. It seemed that they just didn't know it yet. Some of the more experienced people knew this secret. Han Fei smiled and said, "Actually, it's not a big deal. In my opinion, this is not a secret at all. 8 million kilometers is very big, but it's also very small. I can't allow the sea demon Venerable to live in this sea area. So, I'm going to go to sea, hunt the remaining sea demons, and destroy the Black Killer Snail King." Wow! The people in front of him were stunned. "General Han, are you going to war again? Didn't the war just in a year ago? Last year, when the sea demon Venerables died, blood rained all over the sky, causing rain to fall on the Scattered Stars Island for more than a month. The ground in some places was still red. Now, Han Fei was going to fight again and hunt the Black Killer Snail King? Didn't they say that it was a projection of a demi-king? Did Han Fei really dare to be so reckless?" Immediately, Tian Hung of the Tactical Command Center said, "General Han, I think the top priority is a good time for the human race to recuperate. The sea demons have lost their power. In the next 100 years, the entire human race will develop at an extremely fast speed. At that time, strong masters will be born continuously. And General Han, you are the commander supported by everyone on the Scattered Stars Island. You must not take risks." When Han Fei heard this, he was furious. "Damn it. I'm not here to be a mascot. I'm here to get the power of faith. You're such a straightforward guy. Am I fucking negotiating with you?" Han Fei retorted, "Tian Hung, remember, I'm not negotiating with you. I'm just telling you. I've made up my mind on this matter. Only by hunting the remnants of the sea demons can the Scattered Stars Island really develop steadily. Otherwise, once the sea demons recover, the kings will take action, and the entire Scattered Stars Island will be nothing more than smoke in their eyes." Wang Lin of the Logistics Division thought to himself, Tian Hung is really stubborn. General Han is really going to solve the problem once and for all. Wang Lin said, "General Han, you're wise. If we can eradicate the sea demon Venerable, billions of humans can come to the Scattered Stars Island to develop. The Scattered Stars Island has accumulated countless secret realms over the years. Even if you just go to sea for a few dozen kilometers, you can gain experience. Even if you don't go to sea, just on the sand around the sea, it's still worth ordinary people's experience." Han Fei nodded and thought to himself, "This Wang Lin is reliable and sensible." Han Fei nodded slightly and immediately thought of something. "Well, that's exactly what I was thinking. For the long-term peace of the Scattered Stars Island, I've called you here for something else." Tian Hung was a little depressed. In his opinion, Han Fei was too reckless. However, as the Supreme Commander, Han Fei was strong enough. He could start a war, fight, and build a city. It seemed that as long as the goal was achieved, the effect would be excellent. Because of this, he began to doubt his habitual thinking of moving steadily and surely. Han Fei said, "Sir, Wang Lin, listen to me." Wang Lin was stunned for a moment and quickly said, "Yes, sir." Han Fei said, "I plan to build a new functional department on the Scattered Stars Island, called the Construction Department. You will be in charge of this department. As for the Logistics Division, find someone to take over." Everyone was stunned. The Scattered Stars Island had been expanding for a year, but no construction department had been built. Now, such a department had been built. Was General Han going to further expand the scale of construction? While Wang Lin was dumbfounded, Han Fei said, "The construction department will build the City of Justice Arena, build a defensive position around the island, and reorganize the land resources on the Scattered Stars Island. On the Scattered Stars Island, a teleportation temple needs to be built, and many secret realms that have been fully controlled by the Scattered Stars Island need to be opened. This project is definitely not small. I don't trust others to do it. If you want to find someone, you can choose from other departments." Han Fei rambled on for a long time, and finally he said leisurely, "Oh, by the way, demolish the sea god statues, by the way." "Oh, huh?" Wang Lin was taken aback. "Damn, is the construction department so powerful? They can even demolish the sea god statues?" In an instant, someone said, "General Han, look, the sea god is the god in people's hearts. It's not good to demolish the sea god statues, is it?" Someone said, "General Han, Shouldn't we consider demolishing the sea god statues? Han Fei looked indifferent and inadvertently glanced at Wang Lin. Wang Lin shuddered at the sight of that little gaze. At that moment, Wang Lin seemed to understand what Han Fei meant. He wants to erect a statue for me. At that time, Wang Lin didn't feel good. This matter was too shocking, wasn't it? Before, there had never been a supreme commander erecting a statue of himself. But Han Fei just erected one himself? It seems that with General Han's prestige, no one will say anything even if he erected one. But how many people will I have to offend in order to do this? However, Wang Lin was very smart. No matter who he offended, he couldn't offend General Han. This man was a tough guy who could force the big clans to submit to him by himself. If he didn't pay attention to him, he might disappear while he was walking. Wang Lin made a prompt decision. Okay, General Han's proposal is very good. Everyone looked at Wang Lin in confusion. How could it be so easy? Wang Lin immediately said eloquently, "Everyone, what is General Han going to do this time? He is going to eradicate the remaining sea demons and kill the projection of the Black Killer Snail King. This is an unprecedented feat. A year ago, General Han shocked the world with a battle and saved the future of the human race. A year later, General Han wants to eliminate future troubles and fight for the rise of the human race. I think the sea god statues should be replaced by General Han statues. Otherwise, how can we show General Han's extraordinary achievements?" Many people tilted their eyes at Wang Lin, thinking, "Did you hit your head by an ironhead fish?" Worshipping the sea god was something that human beings have been doing since the beginning of history. Now that General Han statues were set up, what would the ordinary people say? Everyone looked at Han Fei, wondering, did you two collude with each other? Han Fei pretended to decline without blushing. "Hey, I'm sorry. That's not easy. How can I, Han Fei, replace the statues of the sea god in the world? My achievements are still not enough." Hiss. Hearing this, everyone realized that he didn't just want to set up a statue on the Scattered Stars Island. Did he want to set up a statue in the entire human world? Everyone's expression changed. How could he receive such treatment if he hadn't become a king? "Yes," Wang Lin shouted. "Who in history can compare to the achievement of destroying the sea race? Isn't that enough? The statue of the sea god is also a souvenir." Han Fei refused again. "I've just become a venerable. How can I have such an honor?" Forget it. A venerable." Many people were shocked again. They immediately knew why Han Fei went to the sea to hunt. Before, when Han Fei hadn't become a venerable, he could already kill venerables and fight strong enemies in the void. Now that he had become a venerable, how strong was he? Besides, they all knew Han Fei's background. Too fast, his growth was too fast. In just over 10 years, from a peak-level dangling fisher when he first came to the Scattered Stars Island, he had become a hanging fisher, a hidden fisher, a law enforcer, an explorer. Now, he was already a venerable. They couldn't help but be shocked by his speed. Wang Lin confirmed his judgment again. Han Fei's ambition was to become a king. He wanted to make great contributions. The existence of the sea god statue would affect Han Fei's path as a king. Immediately, Wang Lin shouted again, "Everyone, who in the world can have such achievements as General Han? Destroying the threat of the sea demons was an extraordinary act. It's just a statue. Where is your responsibility? Where is your decisiveness?" Looking at everything in front of him, Han Fei thought to himself, "This Wang Lin is not bad. I should train him well in the future." Hearing Wang Lin's rebuke, some people relented. Someone said, "I also think that General Han's achievements are extraordinary." Someone agreed. With General Han's achievements, it's only natural that a statue should be eulogized. Someone echoed, "I second that." When everyone was talking with certainty, Han Fei calmed everyone down and said leisurely, "Everyone, although the disaster of the sea demons has been resolved for now, it hasn't been solved once and for all. In the next few days, I'll go to the sea and wipe out the remaining sea demons." First update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1506. After the meeting, Han Fei didn't immediately go out to hunt. but wandered around the city of justice. Han Fei casually walked on a road that had just been built, and he didn't know where it led. There were all kinds of shops on the roadside, selling spiritual fruits, materials, fishing rods, and all kinds of delicacies. Perhaps because Han Fei was too high profile, he had appeared in front of millions of soldiers more than once with the sky curtain. So at this moment, many people were rubbing their eyes. Someone exclaimed, "Marshal, Marshal Han." Someone couldn't hide his excitement and ran up to Han Fei to salute. "Nice to meet you, Marshal Han." Many people came to the City of Justice later, and they didn't know Han Fei yet. However, in the past year, they had heard too many stories about Han Fei and regarded him as their idol. Where is he? Where is Marshal Han? For a moment, some people exclaimed, some stopped, some waved at Han Fei, and some people's eyes lit up. However, most people still didn't dare to approach him. In many people's hearts, Han Fei had become an immortal, powerful, and unparalleled. Who would have thought that such a strong man would walk on the street? It must be noted that in the villages and towns, even the village leaders and town mayors weren't easy to meet. Han Fei smiled. "Everyone, do what you should do. I'm just here to see this brand new City of Justice from the perspective of an ordinary person. Don't mind me." Marshal Han is wise. "The City of Justice is the best city in the world I have ever seen. Marshal Han, I'm not bragging, but this City of Justice has already surpassed the 1,000-star city. Marshal Han is dedicated to the people. We're grateful." Han Fei smiled and walked past the crowd. As the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island, he hadn't shown up for nearly a year. Before going out to sea this time, he had to show up everywhere. As a result, all kinds of gossip were flying in the sky. Someone said, "Marshal Han came to my stall, bought a fish skewer, and gave me money. How could I accept it?" Someone said, "Marshal Han clinked glasses with me in a carnival shop. Did I boast?" Someone said, "Marshal Han personally asked me to refine weapons. You may not believe it, but I'm half a disciple of Marshal Han." Someone said, "Marshal Han was sitting by our beach to enjoy the scenery. Now, that place has become a scenic spot. In the past 2 or 3 days, because of Han Fei's appearance, the people of the Scattered Stars Island were talking about more and more." At this moment, more than 10,000 kilometers away from the outer sea, many fishing boats flew over. Among them, there were more than 10 explorers, including Shueishenqi. Today was the day of Jiuyin Ling's tribulation. Jiuyin Ling was standing on a black ship. The hull of the ship was engraved with strange runes. While everyone was waiting, so was Han Fei. Han Fei and Big Yellow were squatting on a fishing boat not far away, fishing. Han Fei's hook was cast thousands of kilometers away, and Big Yellow was envious. It squatted next to Han Fei with a group of kittens, cleaning up. Big Yellow asked, "Han Fei, did you catch any big fish? Since you're already a venerable, why don't you catch a Tao-seeking realm big fish for me to have a taste?" Whoosh! Han Fei retracted the rod. The void trembled, and a silver light flashed across the sky. A spear of ice shot out from the void. The temperature between heaven and earth seemed to have dropped by dozens of degrees. Han Fei crushed the ice spears with a casual clench. The big hand directly pinched the big fish. Many people looked at Han Fei. Someone said in surprise, "Wow, ice kiss? This kind of creature is really rare." "Meow, meow," Big Yellow shouted. "Han Fei, is it the ice kiss of the Tao-seeking state? Catch it." Han Fei sneered. "Where can I catch a Tao-seeking state monster in such a small area of 10,000 kilometers? You're just a sea spirit, so be happy." Hearing that it was a sea spirit, Big Yellow was not disappointed. With a meow, he took the ice kiss that had been pinched to death by Han Fei and bit off a piece of meat. The rest were all stored in his sea-swallowing seashell. Han Fei couldn't help but shake his head. "Big Yellow, why are you getting more and more stingy?" At this time, dark clouds gathered and the sea waves surged. Above the sky, lightning flashed like dragons and snakes. Han Fei put away the fishing rod in his hand and looked at Jiuyin Ling. "The lightning tribulation is not difficult. With your physique, you can definitely transcend it. Try to take the first and second lightning bolts with your body. If you can't defeat the third one, block it with the boat array. Big Yellow stopped eating fish at this moment. He would also transcend a tribulation in the future. It was extremely rare to watch others transcend a tribulation, so he had to pay attention. Hundreds of peak-level law enforcers came to observe and learn from Jiuyin Ling's tribulation this time. After waiting for another half an hour, when the raging sea surged and the lightning arcs in the sky were about to overflow, the first lightning bolt descended under everyone's gaze. Boom, BM, Jiuyin Ling's hair was disheveled in an instant. Electric currents surged all over her body, and she was shrouded in a bloody mist. A pillar of lightning enveloped Jiuyin Ling for more than 10 seconds before her figure crashed into the sea. Many people were shocked to see this scene. They all knew how strong Jiuyin Ling was. It was just a lightning bolt, but her body was full of cracks and blood spurted out wildly. A large area of her body was charred, and the bloodstains formed scabs all over her body. After taking the first lightning bolt, Jiuyin Ling glanced at Han Fei. She probably knew that she didn't look too good now and looked a little resentful. Boom! The second lightning bolt descended. Thousands of cracks appeared on Jiuyin Ling's body, and her body crashed straight to the bottom of the sea. All the ordinary sea creatures around who didn't know how to escape in advance were crushed into pieces in an instant. Han Fei saw that many parts of Jiuyin Ling's battlesuit had collapsed. Her flesh and blood were disappearing, drying up, and her bones were broken. However, while the power of the lightning was destroying Jiuyin Ling's body, it was also repairing her body. Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly and said via voice transmission, "It's time to take the medicine." Hearing Han Fei's words, Jiuyin Ling took out a green pill with difficulty and quickly swallowed it. The wounds all over her body healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. This pill was not only used to heal injuries, but its main ability was to transform the power of the heavenly tribulation. This was personally refined by Old Jiang. Boom! When the third heavenly tribulation descended, its color changed subtly and became lavender. When he saw the heavenly tribulation, Han Fei shouted in a low voice, "Use the ship array." However, Jiuyin Ling didn't listen to Han Fei. Instead, she used all her strength to protect her body. When the purple heavenly tribulation enveloped her, the originally beautiful girl was blasted into charcoal in an instant. In the City of Justice in his previous life, Han Fei had helped many people pass their heavenly tribulations. At this moment, he pinched his fingers and calculated, trying to figure out what was going on. However, how could something like a heavenly tribulation be calculated? 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Seeing that Jiuyin Ling's aura was getting weaker and weaker, Han Fei immediately shouted, "Enter the ship array." BM, perhaps because of Han Fei's scolding, Jiuyin Ling fell heavily on the ship array. At that moment, there was still a massive amount of lightning enveloping the hull of the black ship. The lightning kept bombarding, and the ship array shattered one layer after another. It wasn't until more than 300 layers were shattered that the power of the lightning gradually weakened. After more than 50 breaths, the lightning was completely over. At the moment when the lightning disappeared, Han Fei had already appeared on the ship array. With a hum, a holy pillar of light descended from the sky. The heavenly awakening divine technique poured down. Crack, crack, crack. Jiuyin Ling's charred skin quickly cracked, and the flesh and skin inside grew rapidly. Her damaged internal organs were also recovering at an incredible speed. At the same time, Jiuyin Ling's physique was also growing at an incredible speed. This was the benefit of transcending the heavenly tribulation with the body. Because they knew the relationship between Han Fei and Jiuyin Ling, all the onlookers just watched. They knew that with Han Fei here, it wouldn't be easy for Jiuyin Ling to die. Sure enough, after about half an hour, Jiuyin Ling walked out of the ship array. However, at this moment, she had already changed into a battle suit and returned to her previous appearance with fluttering long hair. However, having just passed the heavenly tribulation, the spiritual energy in her body was changing rapidly, and she couldn't control the dissipation of her aura. The strength of an explorer was undoubtedly revealed at this moment. Immediately, everyone cupped their fists. "Little Nine, you've finally become an explorer," Granny Een said with a smile. "I used to wonder if Little Nine could become a law enforcer. But now, in just 10 years, you've passed the heavenly tribulation. This world, this future, really belongs to you young people." Someone ridiculed, "Why don't you take a look at who's protecting him? With Commander Han's help, what kind of heavenly tribulation can hurt Little Nine?" Someone else sighed. "But then again, this lightning is really powerful. Even Little Nine almost couldn't resist the third lightning bolt." Shueishenchi said lightly, "It's not necessarily impossible, but there's no need to take that risk. Okay, this heavenly tribulation has been passed, and the Scattered Stars Island has one more explorer. Let's go back." After the others left, Jiuyin Ling said, "Are you going to hunt the sea demon Venerable?" Han Fei said with a smile, "Yes." Jiuyin Ling heaved a long sigh. "Be careful." Han Fei nodded. "Okay, let's go back. The human race hasn't even taken the first step yet." Jiuyin Ling opened her mouth slightly and wanted to say something, but she didn't say it in the end. As early as when Han Fei showed his brilliance and succeeded as the Supreme Commander of the Scattered Stars Island, she knew that Han Fei was already on the road to becoming a king. In the past year, she often went to the general's mansion. Although many people misunderstood her, it was just to cover up the fact that Han Fei was no longer on the Scattered Stars Island. Now, Han Fei had returned as a venerable. Such a speed of growth could only be described as terrifying. Before becoming a law enforcer, one's strength could be explained by talent. However, after becoming a law enforcer, talent alone was useless from the beginning of the heavenly tribulation. After all, the yin-yang heaven did lack some top cultivation techniques, so it was difficult to tap a person's talent. Therefore, Jiuyin Ling had asked the star tortoise more than once. The star tortoise said, "It's impossible for a person to grow so fast unless he has experienced unimaginable difficulties and opportunities and has enough luck." Second update. Asking for votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 1507. Scattered Stars Island, Thug Academy. This academy was established by Han Fei alone, and no one felt that it was inappropriate. Han Fei led everyone and defeated the Sea Clan. So what if he gave a piece of land to the Thug Academy? There was another reason. This academy was backed by the Twisted Jungle. It was also a place that normal people were not willing to go. Therefore, the Thug Academy occupying a place here didn't affect the lives of ordinary cultivators. Like the Blue Sea Town, the Thug Academy was used to reclaiming a large plantation at its gate. However, the area of this plantation was not very large, only about 200 miles in length and breadth. After all, the space on the Scattered Stars Island was limited, and the Thug Academy couldn't ask for more. At this moment, 5 teenagers were running toward the Thug Academy. One of the girls shouted, "At last you are back. Is this the Scattered Stars Island? Oh, this is much more comfortable than living in a tree." On the side, Su Sanxian said, "I heard that senior brother Han Fei is now the supreme commander of the Scattered Stars Island. I wonder if he's in the Thug Academy?" Gucci replied, "Of course. Senior apprentice sister Xiao Bai and senior apprentice brother Quang Quang are definitely here. We can have delicious food." Su Daiji clapped her hands and said, "Husband, we haven't seen each other for a long time. When my husband sees me, he definitely won't recognize me." Xingyu said, "Senior brother Han Fei is too much. He has already gone to the Shuemu sky. When he left, he didn't bring us back." Su Sanxian said, "Senior brother is very busy in Shuemu heaven. He probably didn't realize that we were in Shuemu heaven, right?" Woo! When they saw the plantation, they couldn't help but scream. The 5 young men and women rushed in as if they were having fun. Of the 5 people, the smallest one was picking spices from the ground and stuffing them into his swallowing seashell. Ishiyin said, "Daji, there's no need to pluck them. These are all our own. We can eat as much as we want in the future." After hearing Ishiyin's words, Su Daji grabbed a loquat, took a bite, and bit it. Just as the 5 of them were having fun, a patch of water grass suddenly flew over. The expressions of the 5 changed slightly. Su Sanxian shouted, "Who is it?" Swish, swish, everyone saw that their feet had been covered by the sea god grass at some point. However, Su Daiji let out a cry of annoyance. A pair of hammers appeared in her hands, and with two bangs, she smashed them on the ground. The two hammers smashed down, and the ground shook. All the spirit plants within a radius of several hundred meters were smashed into powder. Su Sanxian and the other three took the opportunity to jump up and use their spider webs to bind the others. Xingyu shouted, "Chi-Chi!" Gu Qi swung his armor box, and the blade storm surrounded the five of them. Right at this moment, there were several sword shadows striking over. Three swords broke through the blade storm. Clang, 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 it was still Su Daiji who attacked. The twin hammers rumbled, and there was the sound of wind and thunder. 7 to 8 sword shadows were sent flying one by one. Ishiyin held the bow in a reverse grip and closed her eyes to focus. A string of spirit chi arrows shot out. However, as soon as these arrows flew out, a patch of sea god grass appeared in the void. These sea god grasses were like living tentacles that could directly catch these spiritual energy arrows. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the blink of an eye, a cloud seemed to float in the plantation. The cloud was filled with sea god grass, like meridians in the void. Gucci swung his armor box again. The other party's sea god grass is very tough and powerful. The five of them were preparing to join forces and counterattack. They saw a burly figure standing in the sky, seemingly holding back the sea god grass. The tentacle-like sea god grass disappeared, and the figure shot over like an arrow. Ishiyin was extremely fast. Her body moved stealthily in midair, attempting to attack from the side. However, with a chi-la sound, a long sword fell from the sky and blocked the void, sealing off Ishiyin's path. Su Sanxian unleashed thousands of threads. The threads curved and swept through the air. However, the person in the air had already exploded into thousands of sea god grass tentacles. Su Daiji's sledgehammer swept across the sky as she spun in a circle. Her voice was like the roar of an evil dragon. Boom! Boom! In the plantation, a storm rumbled as Su Daiji was sent flying hundreds of meters. However, a few strands of spider silk caught it at the first moment. The moment Su Daiji was pulled back, Xingyu's lips curled up into a smile. Success, spirit restriction. Within 200 meters, all the sea god grass withered, and the spiritual energy disappeared without a trace. This instantaneous battle could be considered to have come to a temporary halt. Xingyu and the other four immediately stood together with solemn expressions. They knew that the newcomer was extraordinary. Just two people had actually stopped all of them. When they took a closer look, they saw a man and a woman standing in front of them. Ishiyin asked, "Who are you?" Opposite her, the young man said, "Chu Jinan from the Thug Academy. I'm the one who should be asking this question. Who are you?" Ishiyin and the others looked at each other and heard Xingyu say, "Senior brother? Senior brother Chu, we are also disciples of the Thug Academy. We have just returned and haven't met you yet." Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan looked at each other. When did they have 5 junior brothers and sisters? Where did they come from? However, after the short confrontation just now, these 5 people cooperated very well and were not weak. They had all become hidden fishers, although they looked like beginners. Judging from their reaction and combat ability, Chu Jinan nodded slightly and looked at Ling Yuan. "What do you think?" Ling Yuan looked at them and said, "How can you prove that you are disciples of the Thug Academy?" Ishiyin said, "Senior brother, Han Fei is our senior brother. If senior brother Han Fei is here, he will naturally recognize us." Xingyi nodded. Senior brother Han Fei, senior sister Xiaobai, and senior brother Kuang all know us. Ishiyin said, "Oh, Zhang Xuanyu is my husband." Husband? Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan looked at each other again. F***CK. They were disciples just now? Why did Zhang Xuanyu's girlfriend pop up now? Gucci reacted. "Senior brother Chu, we are disciples that senior brother Han Fei accepted in the Thousand Star City. Later, during the Battle of the Thousand Star City, we went to the Shuimu Heaven to train and only returned today." Ling Yuan asked, "Shuimu Heaven? Although they didn't know what the Shuemu heaven was, Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan both thought it was a rather mysterious secret realm. If Han Fei had accepted these junior brothers and junior sisters in the Thousand Star City, they would indeed be much younger than him. Ling Yuan put away the armor box and glanced at Gu Qi. I'm Ling Yuan, your senior sister. The Thug Academy on the Scattered Stars Island has not been fully activated yet. Now, senior brother Han Fei and senior sister Luo Xiaobai are not here. You guys come back with us. Swish! Ishiyin stepped forward quickly. Senior sister Ling Yuan, how did you know where I was just now? Ling Yuan smiled slightly. You don't just hunt, do you? Once the most talented hunter in our Thug Academy, senior sister Xia Xiaochan, once told me that all hunters' trajectories are traceable. First, you have to judge their purpose. Then, you have to think like a hunter. This is more important than discovering their location. After all, the position might be fake. It might be a feint. Chu Jinan looked at them with a smile and said, Let's go back to school first. Senior brother Han Fei has just returned to the Scattered Stars Island a few days ago and should come back soon. As he spoke, Chu Jinan glanced at Su Daiji and Ishiyin and thought to himself, These two junior sisters are quite good-looking. However, in the next moment, Chu Jinan felt a fierce gaze, which made him tremble all over. When they returned to the Thug Academy, they were surprised to see a girl standing at the gate of the Thug Academy. When this girl saw Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan, her expression didn't change. Chu Jinan said, Lin Wu, I told you, you can't prove that you are a disciple of the Thug Academy. Even if you are lucky enough to get the guidance of the strong masters of the Thug Academy, you can only be an anonymous disciple or half-disciple. If you want to join, you have to wait for the strong masters of the Thug Academy to return. Lin Wu couldn't help looking at Ishiyin and the others. Where are they? Ling Yuan said mercilessly. Each of them is stronger than you. You just learned the 108 spirit-absorbing war bodies. Now, this body-tempering technique has spread all over the Scattered Stars Island. Just this alone can't prove your identity. Lin Wu wasn't discouraged. Instead, he raised his rod and pointed it at Ishiyin and the others. I want to challenge the soul warrior among them. When Su Sanxian and the others heard that Lin Wu wanted to challenge the soul warrior among them, the corners of their mouths twitched as they looked at Su Daji. They all sent voice transmissions. Daji, don't use too much strength. Don't overdo it. Do you understand? Su Daji walked out with 2 big copper hammers in a daze. Do you really want to fight me? Lin Wu looked at the little girl with a fluttering gaze and thought to himself, she shouldn't be as old as me, right? She's already a hidden fisher? Lin Wu immediately raised his rod. Please enlighten me. Bam! A huge pit appeared under Su Daji's feet, and the shadows of the hammers that filled the sky suddenly scattered. It was as if thousands of hammers were striking the sky. This was the effect of Su Daji suppressing her strength to the same realm as Lin Wu. Lin Wu had never seen such a ferocious hammer technique. She raised her rod and felt her internal organs tremble. She instantly knew that she was no match for him. At that moment, Lin Wu twisted her body and used all kinds of strange movement techniques. As for Su Daji, she was already very familiar with this movement technique. The hammer smashed the ground, causing the ground to tremble and rocks to fly everywhere. However, Su Daiji threw a punch at Lin Wu. The scattered rocks and soil were like flying cannonballs. In an instant, they hit Lin Wu. Lin Wu slid dozens of meters on the ground. Only then did she get up with difficulty, feeling shocked. How strong is this woman? Bada. At this moment, a small square object fell to the ground. Lin Wu's face was pale. She immediately squatted down and quickly picked up the broken cube. This was what Lin Wu carried with her every day. It was to remind her that her teacher was very strong. At this moment, the broken cube made her, who had always been arrogant, at a loss for what to do. Ling Yuan said, Did you see that? If you were really a disciple of the Thug Academy, we would have been able to tell immediately. And my judgment is that you aren't. Su Daji was stunned for a moment. She walked to Lin Wu's side and squatted down. She tilted her head and looked at her. You like to play this too? Lin Wu. While Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan were puzzled, Su Daji took out 17 or 18 cubes at once. A full set from the 3rd to the 10th level. Clap, clap, clap. Su Daji's little hands were as fast as lightning, and she put together a 6th level cube. Lin Wu was dumbfounded. Is this even possible? Su Daiji carefully handed over a 3rd order Rubik's Cube. Here, this is for you. I'm working hard on the Mid-Autumn Festival. I wish everyone a happy double festival. When you eat mooncakes, give me a monthly ticket into this chapter. Chapter 1508. Lin Wu looked at Su Daiji's terrifying speed with the Rubik's Cube and felt inferior. Oh my god, is this still a human's hand speed? Lin Wu's face flushed red. Indeed, teacher was related to the Thug Academy. Su Daiji looked at Lin Wu and snorted. This is a toy that senior brother made for me. However, even if you know how to use the 3rd order Rubik's Cube, it doesn't prove that you are a disciple of the Thug Academy. However, I'm sure that you are related to senior brother. Lin Wu couldn't help but ask, who is your senior brother? Su Daiji said, senior brother Han Fei. Only senior brother Han Fei can make the Rubik's Cube. No one else can. Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan looked at each other. It seemed that these junior brothers and sisters had a good relationship with senior brother Han Fei. Senior brother Han Fei actually made a toy for her. Back then, the two of them had suffered all kinds of devastation from Han Fei. Chu Jinan looked at Lin Wu seriously. Although we haven't acknowledged you for the time being, it doesn't mean that you are weak. On the contrary, you are very strong, but you don't have your own unique talent. Perhaps you have seen senior brother Han Fei or other people from the Thug Academy. However, they probably didn't accept you as a disciple. Otherwise, they would have told you clearly. Lin Wu suddenly realized that her teacher hadn't accepted her back then. She had thought that it was because her teacher was wandering the world and didn't have time to accept disciples. In fact, that wasn't the case. The fundamental reason was that her talent was poor and she wasn't qualified. Lin Wu took a deep breath and looked at Chu Jinan seriously. What kind of talent can I enter the Thug Academy? Chu Jinan said, at the same realm, you can last for 10 seconds under Ling Yuan and me. Or, under the joint efforts of these junior brothers and sisters, you can last for 10 seconds. Lin Wu opened her mouth slightly. Are you kidding me? Just Su Daiji alone used 3 breaths of time to defeat him. How could she last for 10 seconds under the joint efforts of the 5 of them? Who could do that? Ling Yuan couldn't help but look at Su Daiji and the others. She said indifferently, you might think it's very difficult, but I think it wasn't easy for you to join us. Ling Yuan looked at Xing Yu and Su Sanqian. Su Sanqian immediately said, it's not easy to get started. Among the 5 of us, Yin Yin has a level 8 spiritual heritage. Daji was born with divine strength. Xing Yu's learning ability is extremely strong, and Chi-Chi's will is the strongest. I'm the only one who barely got started. Lin Wu opened his mouth slightly. Level 8 spiritual heritage? He had never seen a prodigy with such a high-grade spiritual pulse in his life. But now, there was one right in front of him. Furthermore, even Su Sanqian, who had barely learned the basics, was definitely extraordinary. In fact, Lin Wu felt that his talent, willpower, and cultivation speed were not bad. But now, he didn't even have the qualifications to enter. Wu, Xiaonan. Sometimes, you could be a little more flexible with your requirements. His strength lies in his overall strength, so you should take the right medicine for him. Just as Lin Wu was in a daze, he saw a figure walking over from afar. When everyone turned to look at him, he took a step forward and was already standing next to them. Chu Jinan said, Senior Brother Han Fei. Ling Yuan greeted, Greetings, Senior Brother. Su Sanqian, Xing Yu, and Gu Qi greeted, Greetings, Senior Brother Han. Ishiyin screamed and jumped over. Senior Brother, where's my husband? Where's Brother Yu? The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. You have to ask your father and mother. Ishiyin was stunned for a moment before she was overjoyed. They've finally done something reliable. La, I'll wait at the academy. Su Daiji had already run to Han Fei's side and extended her hand, looking like she was asking for something. Han Fei casually threw a 9 chains ring over and patted Su Daiji's head. Then, Han Fei looked at Lin Wu and said, It doesn't mean that you have to be in the Thug Academy to receive systematic and comprehensive training. If you want to enter the Thug Academy, you do need to show some of your talent. Talent isn't necessarily strength. Any talent can make you a member of the Thug Academy. Of course, if you insist on fighting with your strength, if you can last 5 minutes against either of the two teams, you will be admitted. Lin Wu recognized Han Fei from the moment he walked over. This was because she had participated in the entire battle last year. Seeing Han Fei casually greet Chu Jinan and Su Daiji, she couldn't help but be a little envious. This feeling was very different. Lin Wu pursed her lips. Greetings, Marshal Han. Marshal Han. Is there an old man who likes to travel the world in the Thug Academy? May I know his name? Han Fei chuckled. You'll know when you're admitted. There were some things that depended on luck. Lin Wu had a lot of opportunities. Han Fei had given her opportunities, and she had used them well. However, Lin Wu relied too much on these opportunities and lost her growth goals. Although Lin Wu had stood out, it was not enough. She was just an ordinary heavenly talent. Compared with ordinary people, she might be very powerful, but compared with the 1 in a million students in the Thug Academy, Lin Wu was obviously not good enough. And the more she was like this, the more she needed to be polished. As the saying went, an unpolished jade is worthless. This was exactly what Lin Wu was like. In the Thug Academy, Han Fei led everyone into the school. While walking, Han Fei asked, "Where are Old Bai and Old Jiang? Why haven't these two old guys come?" Chu Jinan said, "Senior brother Han Fei, the two presidents have just become venerables and need to consolidate their strength. The president said that some opportunities should belong to them and they need to look for them." Han Fei asked, "What about the others? Where are Marshall and Bai Wu? Where are Chu Qingyan and Mu Qingchuan?" Chu Jinan said, "Senior brother, they have also temporarily gone to sea to gain experience. Only senior brother Yang Xie and senior sister Jiang Qin are still in the Thug Academy in the Blue Sea Town. Junior uncle Jiang Chao has taken control of the dragon boat in the level 3 fishery." The corners of Han Fei's mouth twitched slightly. There are too few people in the Thug Academy. Everyone has their own things to do. Who should they leave such a big mess for? Han Fei suddenly asked, "Where are Teacher Wenren and Teacher Xiaozhan?" Chu Jinan said, "They will arrive next month. They were originally helping in the level 3 fishery, but because the situation is not clear enough, they did not immediately come to the Scattered Stars Island." Han Fei knew what they were worried about staying in the level 3 fishery. The contradiction between the Thug Academy and the Thousand Star City had already become white-hot. Perhaps a war would suddenly break out at any moment. Therefore, they stayed there to control the situation in advance and ensure that the level 3 fishery, the 36 towns, and the other places were all under their control. This way, they wouldn't be a burden to him. Why would they be free next month? Presumably, they already knew what had happened to him in the Thousand Star City. Therefore, they felt that the war couldn't be fought, and he had already fully grown up, so they could come to the Scattered Stars Island with peace of mind. Han Fei smiled. "That's good too." Ishiyin said, "Senior brother, we often hear news about you in the Waterwood Heaven. However, you didn't go to the Cloud Sea Divine Tree to look for us even once." Han Fei smiled and said, "I didn't know you were in the Waterwood Heaven." Then, Han Fei looked at Xingyu and said, "In the past 8 years, no one has tested your strength. I'll stay in the academy for 3 days. Chu Jinan, Ling Yuan, you too. Although you used to be with the principal and the others, they probably didn't have time to teach you anything in the past few years. In these 3 days, I can test your results." Hiss. Su Sanxian and the others looked at each other and hurriedly said, "Senior brother, can we not send Nine Tails?" Han Fei smiled faintly. "I'll do it myself." Half an hour later, screams echoed in the Thug Academy. In the Purgatory of Blades, everyone, including Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan, had their skin and flesh torn apart. Within the range of all of them, there were blades everywhere. The fine sand, the air, the plants, everything was attacking him. In an instant, thousands of blade lights attacked. Who could withstand it? Han Fei said, "This is only the first test. It tests your reaction speed, physique strength, comprehensive skills, and combat skills. From the looks of it, it's a mess. Everyone, Ishiyin said, "Senior brother, the key is that there are too many blade lights, right? There's no way to hide." Han Fei didn't care. He said, "Next, it's a team battle. Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan, as senior brothers and sisters, you should go first." Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan felt a headache coming on. What could they do? They had to bite the bullet. A moment later, Ishiyin and the others sat on the grass and watched. Chu Jinan transformed into the sea god grass, and Ling Yuan's armor box fell to the ground. Thousands of rays of light rose and fell, and the sword net formed an array that swept towards Han Fei like a rainbow. Chu Jinan's sea god grass was parasitized on Han Fei's body and was shattered by Han Fei. In the end, the shattered fragments of the sea god grass condensed into blades in the air, forming a storm that swept towards Han Fei. Han Fei casually slashed with his invincible saber intent and broke this technique. As for Chu Jinan, he controlled the sea god grass that filled the sky and turned it into countless silk threads, wanting to entangle Han Fei. Han Fei, on the other hand, used a movement technique that only left afterimages. He displayed his melee saber techniques to the fullest. At that moment, Su Sanxian and the others were speechless. As expected of the senior brothers and senior sisters of the Thug Academy, the way they attacked directly forced people to a dead end. The bombardment without any blind spots made it impossible for people to be careless. But even so, Chu Jinan and Ling Yuan couldn't shake Han Fei at all despite using all their means. They were completely defeated by Han Fei. The two of them fought Han Fei for about 30 minutes, which fully displayed their hard work over the years. After the battle, Han Fei looked at Su Sanxian and the others. "Come, it's your turn." Everyone, Chapter 1509. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Han Fei left a few great techniques for them, and then left. The Thug Academy had always been like this. Han Fei felt that he was not bad. He was still teaching them. Before, Xiao Zhan and Wenren Yu taught him actual combat and let him go to the fishery to experience it. Han Fei left the 108 Desolate God Body to them, a low-quality divine weapon to each of them, and a copy of the God Scaring painting to each of them. Yes, Han Fei left them the God Scaring painting. This was a divine art, and it was not something they could fully comprehend in a short period of time. In fact, it could be said that even he himself did not use it much. As for the others, Han Fei also left the 64-dimensional fish dragon dance and the 100 Wars divine hammer. Among them, the 100 Wars divine hammer only required Sudaiji. When Han Fei left, the Thug Academy was full of complaints. No matter who it was, after being beaten for 3 days, they couldn't be in a good mood. And the God-Scaring painting and the 64-dimensional fish dragon dance were extremely difficult to learn. However, it was none of Han Fei's business. On the sea, after Han Fei completely left the Scattered Stars Island, Peaceful appeared on Han Fei's fishing boat. "Are you really going to hunt the projection of the king who escaped last time?" Han Fei asked. "Why? Can't I?" Peaceful was speechless. "That's the projection of a king. You're still far from the half-king realm. If you don't have the combat power of a real half-king, you can't win." Han Fei tilted his head and looked at Peaceful. "I'll leave the projection of the Black Demon Spiral King to you," Peaceful said in surprise. "But I can only help you 3 times. Han Fei smiled faintly. "We're good friends. This is the first time." The projection of the Black Demon Spiral King relies on his corrosive blood to maintain. So, he can't afford to fight a half-king battle. Han Fei didn't explain too much. Before, he felt that he had enough time. But after going to the Immortal Palace and meeting his mother, he immediately realized that he was short-sighted. The 2 immortal palaces of the Yinyang Heaven and the Waterwood Heaven had declined after all and couldn't be compared to the past. As a result, his knowledge wasn't very broad. At this moment, Han Fei held the nautical panorama, quickly selected a direction, and directly escaped. 3 days later, Han Fei appeared somewhere above the deep sea near the Wall of Death. This was a sea area with a depth of more than 10,000 meters, covering an area of tens of thousands of miles. At this moment, in the darkness, a black shadow was slowly sinking to the bottom of the sea. After about 2 hours, Han Fei finally approached the Black Killer Snail King and the others without alerting the Half-King. This search was quite easy. After all, they had a sacred artifact like the Multitude navigational apparatus. To be precise, there were 6 of them. The Black Killer Snail King was half a king. There was also a peak stage venerable, a high-level venerable, 2 mid-level venerables, and a low-level venerable. At this moment, these people were cultivating. As the projection of a half-martial monarch, the Black Killer Snail King's recovery speed was not slow at all. The strength of this group of people was definitely not weak. Han Fei slowly approached one of them. Han Fei remembered this person. Back then, when he had entered the so-called saint state, he had seen this person outside of his mind. If he was not mistaken, he should be Mo Lin, who was a high-rank venerable one. To become a high-foundation venerable, his strength was by no means simple. This Mo Lin couldn't be weak. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been arranged to guard the sea demon surpassing land with argent. Han Fei smacked his lips. This battle is indeed a bit difficult. As Han Fei thought of something, Peaceful stepped into this domain. The moment Peaceful appeared, the Black Killer Snail King suddenly opened his eyes and shouted in a low voice, "A human Half-King?" The Black Killer Snail King was surprised. The sea area was so vast, but he was still discovered when he was hiding next to the Wall of Death. He had been thinking that human beings should be busy with internal strife, and he had time to recover his strength and connect to the inside of the Wall of Death. Who would have thought that the human experts would come so quickly? Peaceful appeared, looked at the Black Killer Snail King, reached out one hand, crossed the space, and appeared directly in front of the Black Killer Snail King. "My king!" The Black Killer Snail King shook the void open, and the peak stage venerable sea demon also rushed up. Han Fei also remembered this person. His name was Chao Xian, and the Heavenly Sword Master had fought with him. Although this person's strength had reached the peak stage venerable, he couldn't defeat the Heavenly Sword Master. Obviously, his strength was not much higher than that of an advanced venerable. It was like the difference between an advanced explorer and a peak stage explorer. In fact, their strength was about the same, but the amount of laws they had comprehended was a little different. Although the Heavenly Sword Master was an advanced venerable, he had been stuck in this realm for many years and had a deep understanding of laws. Even if he hadn't reached the peak stage venerable, he was only one step away. Therefore, he wasn't much weaker than Chao Xian. At this moment, Peaceful attacked, and the Black Killer Snail King shouted, "Human, are you the only one here? Are you sure you can defeat me?" The Black Killer Snail King was extremely confident. He tore the void open and charged at Peaceful. The main reason why he couldn't exert enough strength when facing Han Fei was that Han Fei's Great Path had a problem. Han Fei could seal all the spells in the space. Besides, Han Fei had golden bones and an amazing physique. The Black Killer Snail King's Half-King projection couldn't defeat Han Fei, who was in the same realm. However, just because Han Fei could stop him didn't mean others could. Therefore, the Black Killer Snail King wasn't worried about Peaceful's attack. He just turned around and scolded Chao Xian. "You lead the others and retreat first." Even the Black Killer Snail King cared about the venerables under his command. Come to think of it, even in their Black Blood Royal City, the venerable realm was an extremely high-end existence, and it was not easy to find one. Peaceful only took away the Black Killer Snail King's projection. The rest of the people were naturally left for Han Fei to deal with. But since it was a hunt, how could Han Fei not be prepared? Hearing that, Chao Xian led the others and quickly escaped into the void. Chao Xian knew that the Black Killer Snail King's projection wouldn't die easily. Even if it died, it would just be a projection. However, these people were all in their true bodies. If another Half-King came, it would be very difficult for them to resist. Therefore, they had to retreat to a safe place. However, at the moment when Chao Xian led the others and quickly escaped into the void, all of a sudden, a space crack appeared in the depths of the void, and thousands of knife lights flew out. At the same time, a sacrificing punch was released and blasted at Chao Xian with unparalleled power. Chao Xian roared, "Not good. Inkscale, you guys split up." The humans came prepared this time. The reason why Chao Xian was so panicked was that Han Fei had used his strongest combat power. Even if Han Fei was in his best state, he could only maintain this combat skill for 100 seconds. Besides, Han Fei deliberately asked the old turtle to show some of his aura, so that Chao Xian would mistakenly think that the humans had sent many venerables this time to catch all of them. In fact, Han Fei was just trying to disperse them so that he could defeat them one by one. This place has a forbidden spell. When Han Fei felt that his body began to shake, he knew that the opponent's Tao was working. This Tao must have something to do with the frequency of heaven and earth. After breaking the spell, Han Fei slashed out 10 kilometers of frost with Snowmorn. Chao Xian was quickly frozen into ice. Bam! A peak-level venerable was still a peak-level venerable. No matter how weak he was, he couldn't be suppressed by a mere ice seal. Chao Xian shattered the talent ability of Snowmorn and guided countless seaweed vines in the deep sea to roll at Han Fei like a waterfall. Puff, 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 the blade purgatory had begun. These seaweed vines were immediately cut into pieces. In fact, before they could even shatter, the countless blades of grass had even turned into boundless blade auras that swept towards Chao Xian. Yeah, since the first move didn't work, he tried another one. Chao Xian opened his mouth and changed into half a fish body, roaring. The sharp soul attack was about to go straight into Han Fei's head. Not to be outdone, Han Fei roared out the soul-swallowing sound of 100 beasts and also attacked Chao Xian's head. The two of them fought quickly, and after 100 seconds, both of them had been injured. Han Fei suppressed the power of the Tao and managed to fight for only 100 seconds. When Han Fei found that the power of the Tao was about to collapse, he immediately tore open the void and retreated. Han Fei said, "Wait for me. I'll come back." Chao Xian looked solemn. Han Fei's speed and strength were very strong, but his soul power seemed to be a little weak, much weaker than his. However, the other party's soul attack technique was not weak, so he didn't have the upper hand. If his soul combat skills were excellent, he might have been able to kill this person just now. At this moment, the battle stopped, and Chao Xian was about to find Mo Lin and the others. However, everyone had different hiding methods, and they were in a hurry just now. Now it was not appropriate to find them so rashly. Chao Xian thought, forget it, let's wait a little longer. When today's battle subsided, I'll just gather at the agreed place. In Chao Xian's view, as long as Han Fei didn't hunt successfully this time, the human beings would definitely have to prepare for a long time next time. This time, the other party obviously came in a hurry. Otherwise, the other party should have sent more than one half-king level beast king. He guessed that they must have accidentally discovered him and the others. The human beings didn't have enough manpower, but they didn't want to let them go, so they chose to attack. However, what Chao Xian didn't know was that as soon as Han Fei stopped fighting with him, he had already found a direction with a nautical panorama. The question Han Fei asked in his heart was, where is the weakest venerable of the other party?